After my rebirth, I chose not to reveal my identity to my wealthy biological parents. I wished them all the best with their beloved adopted daughter. Instead, I became the cherished treasure of my foster parents. Years later, my birth parents came begging at my door. If they're going to spoil the fake heiress, then I'll spoil my adoptive parents. Later, both my biological mother and my adoptive mother were kidnapped. I'm sorry, Auntie, but I have to save my mom first. 1. After being killed by the fake heiress and my family, I was reborn. I returned to a time before I had even met my biological parents. Looking at my adoptive parents who cherished me, I couldn't help but feel my eyes well up. All the happiness from my past life came to an end when I was 4 years old. My mother gently stroked her belly and asked me softly, "Snow, would you like it if Mommy had a little brother or sister for you to play with?" Hearing the exact same words from my past life, tears welled up in my eyes and fell. Mom pulled me into her arms. "Sweetheart, why are you crying? Don't you want a little sibling?" I shook my head hurriedly. "I do want one. I really want a little brother or sister." Dad chimed in. "What's the reason then? Are you upset because I didn't buy you ice cream?" Hearing that, I just nodded along. I loved ice cream as a kid, but it always gave me a stomachache. So they had to limit how much I could have at that moment. They didn't suspect a thing and just laughed at me for being greedy. "Ice cream is too cold, and it's not good to have too much. How about we just share half a box?" "Okay, no. Snow, be a good girl and watch cartoons at home. Mom and I are going out for a bit, and we'll bring you back some ice cream." I knew they were going to the hospital for a prenatal checkup. In my past life, I waited obediently at home, but my parents never came back. A car accident took away the people dearest to me. It was only after my parents' death that I learned from relatives I wasn't their biological child. I was just an abandoned baby they found in a trash can, nearly frozen to death on a snowy day. So, with no relatives willing to take me in, I was sent to an orphanage. It wasn't until 12 years later that my birth parents, the Shin family, finally acknowledged me and brought me home. But by then, the family already had a pampered and cherished fake heiress in their midst. Shelley came into this world on a snowy day, and as fate would have it, I nearly died on that very same day. The Shin parents, along with her older brother and younger brother, all doted on her, terrified that my presence might upset her. Thinking of this, I quickly stopped my parents. "Mom, can you go tomorrow instead? I want you to do a puzzle with me." I, who is always well-behaved and sensible, suddenly threw a tantrum and refused to let them leave the house. My parents didn't want me to feel neglected after the new baby arrived, so they stayed. In this life, both my parents are here, and I have no desire to return to the Shin family. Didn't they say Shelley was pure and kind-hearted? Well, I hope they all live happily together as one loving family. 2. Back then, I was completely unaware of my true origins. I grew up healthy and happy, just like any other child. My mother was a high school Chinese literature teacher, and my father was a university history professor. In a family of scholars, not studying hard is practically a betrayal of your ancestors. In my past life, Shelley was an excellent student. While I never received a proper education, the Shin couple would often compare me to her. I studied hard to win their approval. When I presented my outstanding report card, Mr. and Mrs. Shin remained utterly unimpressed. Lucas also spared no effort in mocking me. "What's the point of all your hard work? You're just a nobody. You'll never measure up to my sister." Despite being at the very bottom of the class himself, he always used Shelley to put me down. On the day of the college entrance exam, Shelley paid someone to have me kidnapped on the road. I was lucky enough to escape, but I still missed the first exam. I told Mr. and Mrs. Shin that Shelley was the one to blame, but they accused me, saying, "Don't falsely accuse Shelley for no reason. I think you're just trying to upset her before her exams on purpose." The police eventually caught the man who kidnapped me, but he insisted to the end that he was the mastermind. As for how I knew it was Shelley, she confessed. Of course, how could she resist gloating about it to me? The Shin family has 2 sons, the eldest, Hugo, and the younger, Lucas. The eldest brother, Hugo, is widely regarded as a golden child, the model for all scions of prominent families to emulate. The Shin family dotes on Shelley immensely, but Hugo is the undisputed heir. He is humble, gentle, and impeccably courteous to everyone, yet I always feel I can't quite see through him. Even though he dotes on Shelley, he's always been gentle with me and never goes out of his way to make things difficult. At least he's not like Lucas, who would rally others to bully me at school. Lucas is my biological brother, but he has never shown me an ounce of respect. I think there's something seriously wrong with him. I'm not insulting him, I'm just stating a fact. When Lucas fights, he goes completely berserk, as if he's lost his mind, manic, furious, out of control. He's like a rabid dog that Shelley keeps. If Shelley just whined and cried that I was bullying her, Hugo would rally a bunch of his good-for-nothing friends to get back at me for her, locking me in the bathroom, putting dead rats in my desk, throwing my backpack into the water trough. This was all standard procedure for them. I also had to endure their ostracism and beatings. Then Shelley would kindly plead on my behalf. But was Hugo really just trying to avenge his dear sister? Not exactly. I had also told Mr. and Mrs. Shen about Lucas's misdeeds, and they promised to give me an explanation. But the moment Lucas gave, I bullied Shelley as his excuse. I was the one who ended up getting punished. 3. In this life, I have a new younger brother, Miles. The life from my past that never got the chance to be born. Miles and I have a typical sibling relationship, full of love and conflict. Sure, I might rough him up a bit, but I'd never actually kill him. He's always getting me into trouble, but at least he has some principles. Having lived a life before, I've possessed a maturity and rationality beyond my years since childhood. I managed to convince my parents to invest in stocks and real estate. At first, they dismissed my ramblings. After missing out on 2 profitable opportunities, they listened to me with a mix of skepticism and hope, and sure enough, they made money. My room was filled with economics books, so my parents simply assumed I was a born business prodigy. That money later became my startup capital. My parents, both teachers, often wonder how they ended up raising a businessman like me. I hate to admit it. But I did learn a great deal from Mr. Shen while working at his company. Back then, Shelley was studying an arts major. After graduation, she dove headfirst into the entertainment industry and didn't have time to keep an eye on me. I seized the opportunity to better myself. By that point, I had given up hope on Mr. and Mrs. Shen, and their favoritism no longer caused me pain. If I couldn't have their affection, then I would make use of the Shen family's resources. I stayed by Mr. Shen and my eldest brother's side, honing my professional skills, expanding my network, and building up my own resources. Even if I couldn't stay with the Shen family in the future, I could still thrive elsewhere, but they still wouldn't let me go. We were both kidnapped, Shelley and I. They all chose to save Shelley, leaving me to fall to my death. That kidnapping was absolutely premeditated. But I'm absolutely certain Shelley couldn't have done it, at least not on her own, back then. The worst she could do was to needle me with how much our family doted on her, or make those passive-aggressive, two-faced comments to the media. That was the extent of it. Besides, I was always on my guard around her, so she couldn't really get to me anymore. So, there must be something I've overlooked, for I went to City No. 1 high school, while Shelley attended a private academy. In our second year of high school, Shelley and her brother Lucas were exposed for bullying other students. In my past life, I wasn't the only one they picked on. Shelley had to maintain her image as a beautiful, kind-hearted heiress, so her only job was to look the part of the victim. Lucas would be the one to rally people and get revenge on her behalf. Chinsu is the top student in her grade at the elite school, a girl from a poor family, with delicate features and a quiet, gentle demeanor. She was a scholarship student and didn't have to pay tuition. Chinsu's reason for attending the elite school was crystal clear. Her mother was gravely ill. The top student in each grade at the elite school received an annual scholarship of 100,000 yuan, not to mention additional prize money from competitions. If she could secure the title of city's top scorer in the national college entrance exam for the school, there would be an extra reward. She had the delicate, innocent looks of a pure white flower, but she was also genuinely self-reliant and strong. Earning money through her own abilities to pay for her mother's medical treatment, Shelley detested anyone who stole her spotlight. Chinsu was quiet, timid, and afraid of causing trouble. Even when bullied, she wouldn't dare speak up. In my past life, I couldn't even help myself, but this time, I can help her. The weak evoke sympathy, while the exceptional command attention, and Chinsu embodied both. Countless netizens spoke out in her support, and the education authorities took note of the incident. In the end, Lucas was expelled. The Shen family pinned the entire blame on him. Netizens also subjected him to a torrent of online criticism. Wasn't she his favorite sister? Then let him get a taste of favoritism and injustice. In her past life, Shelley had a teenage romance and went to a hotel with someone. Somehow the news got out, and all the young scions from prominent families were buzzing about it. Shelley had a good cry, so the Shen family pressured me into taking the fall for her. I had no say in the matter. They had already spread the word that I was the one who went to the hotel. Lucas said with an air of complete certainty, "My sister has always been well regarded. Unlike you with your less than stellar reputation, sacrificing you to protect her is the most logical choice. What if the tables were turned and he was the one in trouble? Shelley gets top grades and is the absolute favorite of the family. Lucas, on the other hand, is just a spoiled rich kid who's good for nothing but spending money, so making him the fall guy was the smart move." The Shen family reached a settlement with Chinsu by paying a hefty sum. After securing enough money for his mother's medical bills, Chinsu transferred to City No. 1 high school. Seriously, with grades that good, what school wouldn't want to poach him? I remember, in her past life, she really did become the city's top scorer. Her results were nearly perfect. to an almost freakish degree, yet, the very day after receiving her acceptance letter, she took her own life at home. 5. By the time Hugo was in university, he was already proficient at helping Mr. Shin manage the company's affairs. The Shin family is in the beauty and fashion business. In a past life, Hugo wanted to acquire a skincare company because he coveted their anti-aging formula. Unfortunately, the owners refused to sell, so he bribed factory workers to add harmful substances during production. Many users developed allergic reactions, some even suffered disfigurement, and they all filed complaints. That company got sued and faced massive compensation claims, forcing them to sell off the formula. I contacted the company's CEO, Wang Xin, in advance. He might not believe me, but he'll definitely be on his guard. As for how I got his contact information, I actually obtained it in my past life. I didn't pay much attention when this company had its incident in my past life. It wasn't until years later, when he sought revenge against Hugo, that I learned the truth, but by that time, he no longer had the power to contend with the Shin family. I had thought Wang Xin would lie in wait to catch the spy red-handed, but I never imagined he could be even more ruthless than I thought. He didn't intervene. Instead, he waited until the skincare products were sold. The public outcry had grown, and only then did he take the evidence and sue the Shin family in court. Good thing I didn't reveal my identity to him. That's not a man to be trifled with. The Shin family's reputation plummeted. Not only did they have to compensate Wang Xion's company for its losses, but they also faced a wave of lawsuits from the public. 6. Chen Su is still in touch with her old classmates. She told me that the Shin family had slashed the kids' allowances by more than half. Logically, even if the Shins had to pay a hefty sum, it shouldn't have come to cutting the children's pocket money. The problem is, Shelley and Lucas are notoriously extravagant, constantly spending money on things they don't need. Shelley, of course, was raised in the lap of luxury, the kind of child who was given the moon if she asked for the stars. As for Lucas, his life of leisure and pleasure is easily funded. Such expenses are a drop in the bucket for the Shin family, but he's obsessed with appearances, thrives on flattery, and has a vast circle of so-called friends. They all saw him as an easy mark. Naturally, Shelley threw a fit, so she pocketed her brother's share without a shred of guilt. The Shin couple and the eldest brother, Hugo, saw nothing wrong with this and continued to favor her as always. Shelley has been in a terrible mood lately. Not only can she no longer spend money freely, but she's also being ostracized at school. With the Shin family's troubles, she's become the subject of gossip too. The bullying incident completely ruined her reputation. Without enough money, her little followers don't listen to her anymore. When I'm in a bad mood, I always need a punching bag. Mr. and Mrs. Shin were her pillars of support. And of course she wouldn't dare do anything to her eldest brother. That left only my dear little brother. In my past life, when I returned to the Shin family and received the bank card from my parents, I was overwhelmed and even thought they were giving me too much. It was only later that I found out that was merely a tenth of what Shelley had. Later, she accused me of stealing her jewelry to sell it for money, to get back at me for her. Lucas simply pushed me down the stairs. I suffered a concussion and was in the hospital for a long time, yet never received an apology. Mrs. Shin is still punishing me, saying she won't send me any more money. I'm completely broke. Forget buying things. I can't even afford the bus fare. Lucas sneered. Serves her right. She's straight out of the slums. She needs to fix that greedy nature of hers. But this time around, it's Lucas who's going to be pitiful. His situation is far better than my past life was. I just wonder if he has the same fortitude I did, if he's still willing. Then forget I said anything. Such a deep bond between siblings. I guess I was never worthy. I wish them well. 7. After the college entrance exam, I got my wish and attended Jing University with Chen Su. She was the top scorer in our city. Just like in my past life, I majored in finance. With years of business experience still in my memory, I found the coursework very familiar. In the previous life, Shelley also got into a prestigious domestic university, while Lucas, whose grades were a complete mess, was sent abroad by the Shin family. After a series of setbacks and failing the college entrance exam, Shelley has now chosen to study abroad. She has a solid academic foundation and could have gotten into a decent university at home, but someone like her is simply not cut out for a mediocre life. Lucas, however, didn't make it abroad and ended up at a vocational college. The Shin family's fortunes may have declined, but they're still well off enough to afford sending both children overseas for their studies. I haven't managed to find out what their internal conflicts are yet. In my freshman year, I founded Sunrise Company, focusing on the internet sector. I didn't forget to set a trap for the Shin family. Given my familiarity with their business, I've been avoiding any meetings with members of the Shin family. It wasn't until my senior year that I met Mr. Shin and Hugo at a party. 8. At the age of 22, I was finally reunited with the Shin family. I came home from work to find Mr. and Mrs. Shin along with Hugo. In my house, Mrs. Shin burst into tears the moment she saw me and tried to come over for a hug, but I stepped back to avoid her. Mom, Dad, who are they? My parents looked deeply uncomfortable. Before they could even get a word out, Mrs. Shin cut in. My child, we are your birth parents. I've finally found you. I've always pretended to know nothing about my origins, so of course, I had to keep up the act now. I looked utterly confused. My parents asked them to sit down and talk things out properly. My mom took me aside and recounted the story of how they adopted me over 20 years ago. I frowned upon hearing that, clearly unwilling to accept it. My parents looked worried. Mr. and Mrs. Shin had tears in their eyes. Hugo's face was expressionless, but his eyes were fixed on me. Only Miles remained unaffected. I knew it. Snow. You're not their real child. I took my mom's hand. Mom, Dad. We've been living together for so many years now. I'm all grown up, so why bring up the past? Aren't we doing just fine as a family? My tone was irritable, clearly showing my displeasure with whoever was disrupting our family's harmony. Mr. and Mrs. Shin both looked embarrassed. My dad spoke up to reassure me. Snow, don't worry, you'll always be our child. No matter what you do, we'll always support you. My mom also said, even though I didn't give birth to you, I've watched you grow up. You and Miles are exactly the same in my heart. I looked at the Shin family sitting across from me. How can we be so sure they're really my family? For all we know, they could be con artists. I know it was incredibly rude of me to say that, but for someone who just received such a shock, it's understandable, right? In my past life, when the Shin family came to the orphanage looking for me, they weren't weeping and carrying on like this. Shelley was crying as if she'd lost her parents. With Mrs. Shin comforting her, Lucas looked at me with utter disdain. Is this country bumpkin really my sister? She's not some con artist, is she? Seeing Mr. and Mrs. Shin remained silent, Hugo spoke up first. Hello, little sister, I'm your eldest brother. Hugo, here's what happened. There was a mix-up at the hospital when you were born. You were switched with another baby. The Shin family has another daughter named Shelley. She's the one you were swapped with. We only recently found out that Shelley isn't our biological child. It was at a business event where we saw you. You look so much like our mother, and you happened to share Shelley's birthday. That's what prompted us to look into it. That's a lie. They knew Shelley wasn't theirs when she was 16. That's why they came looking for me at the orphanage. But this time, I wasn't at the orphanage. They probably couldn't find me and just gave up. I regained my usual composure and asked. My parents only ever had Miles, so it wasn't a simple mix-up. Where did that Shelley come from? Mrs. Shin explained. Shelley is the child of our housekeeper, so it wasn't an accident. It was a deliberate swap. She wanted me dead. I looked at Hugo pointedly. Your explanation just now was an attempt to cover for Shelley. Mrs. Shin rushed to Shelley's defense. Snow, we've wronged you all these years. But Shelley is innocent in all this. Hugo, clearly the more level-headed one, deftly changed the subject. Don't worry, little sister, we've already sent that nanny to prison. I will never let anyone who hurt you get away with it. That decisive. In my past life, it took me a great deal of effort to get that woman locked up. The Shin family was afraid the nanny might have a criminal record, which could jeopardize Shelley's future, not wanting her to have any further connection with Shelley. They tried to pay her off to make her go away. I called the police later. But that only deepened the Shin family's prejudice against me. Don't call me little sister. It's not even confirmed yet. I snapped irritably. That was his special nickname for Shelley. Hugo gave a slight smile. I was too impatient. If you don't believe me, we can always get a paternity test done. He always had this radiant, open-hearted demeanor, giving off the feeling of a gentle older brother. Is Shelley that actress? I asked suddenly. Yes, she is. She's filming on location in another city, so she couldn't make it back in time to see you. But don't you worry, Shelley is married now. From now on, you'll be the only daughter in this house. Your father and I will make it up to you. I promise. Mrs. Shin took my hand, her eyes brimming with tears. Come home with me, my dear child. I was at a loss for words. I don't want to. I'm happy with the Lin family. Are you still holding a grudge? Is that why you won't accept me as your mother? She pressed on, refusing to let it go. It was Mr. Shin who stopped him. All right. It's perfectly normal for Snow to need time to process this. These things can't be rushed. He then turned his gaze to me. Snow, no matter what, I am your biological father. If you don't believe me, we can start with a paternity test. At my parents' insistence, I went with the Shin family to take the paternity test. They also hoped I would find my birth parents. The test results were conclusive. The two families had a meal together, but I remained visibly resistant the whole time. The Shin family brought up the idea of me moving in with them again, but I declined. 9. After returning home, I gathered all the news reports about the Shin family that had surfaced over the years and showed them to my parents, one by one. Ever since the lawsuit involving Wang Xin, the Shin Group has been on a steady decline, facing repeated setbacks. They've mortgaged almost all of their family assets, with the exception of the Shin family villa and the ancestral home. The Shin Empire is on the verge of collapse and is in desperate need of a massive cash injection. I know all the details so well because I played a part in it. The other half of the credit, of course, goes to the seemingly innocent and kind-hearted Shelley in their eyes. Helping her husband bring down her own family's company is exactly the kind of thing she would do. In my past life, I returned to the Shin family early, and Shelley was deeply hostile towards me, terrified I would take everything from her. The indulgence of the Shin family put her much more at ease. My not returning this time will only make her more afraid. The unknown is what's most terrifying. For 6 years, she has constantly reminded herself, if I ever go back, everything she's gained will be gone. That's why she arranged a marriage with the Fu family early on, preferring to hand over the Shin family's assets to them, even betraying the Shin clan to cling to the Fu family's coattails. Judging by Hugo's attitude, they must still be under Shelley's spell. They must have looked into my background thoroughly before coming here. They went so far as to send the nanny to prison, even at the cost of Shelley's future. Isn't that just because they were afraid of upsetting me? My parents don't know about my past life, but I need to give them a heads up not to trust the Shin family too much. Mom, Dad, the Shin family secretly started looking for their lost daughter 6 years ago, yet they claim they only found out recently. They were clearly just trying to placate me. They knew the child had been swapped 6 years ago, but only just recently put that nanny in prison. All the while, they raised the nanny's own daughter like a precious jewel, never once thinking of getting justice for me. It shows they never truly cared about me. My mom was skeptical. That seems unlikely. What could they possibly gain from this? My dad flipped through the documents, his expression grave. If this information is accurate, the Shin Corporation is truly an unscrupulous business. Snow is in business too. Getting involved with them can't be good. Miles, always quick on the uptake, said, Sis, you don't think they're trying to marry you off to some old guy for money, do you? Mom shot him a look. What nonsense are you talking? Isn't that how it always goes in the novels? A marriage of convenience, for profit. I chuckled softly. It's not entirely impossible. You don't need to worry too much. I know what I'm doing. I just wanted to give you a heads up. 10, Mr. Shin and Hugo were busy with company matters and only managed to visit me a few times. Hugo brought a few diamond pieces that girls tend to like, but I recognized that all of these were Shelley's things. They can no longer afford expensive jewelry, but buying something too ordinary would seem insincere. In my previous life, when I first returned to the Shin family, Hugo gave me a 20,000 yuan bracelet. I was amazed and deeply touched, even feeling he had spent too much. That was until I accidentally overheard Shelley's snide remark, Brother, now that Snow is back, you're only giving her such a cheap bracelet. She won't get upset, will she? After all, a single outfit of mine costs 300,000 yuan. Hearing the word cheap did upset me, but I wasn't angry. After all, it was a gift from my own brother. But then, Hugo said, what's cheap about it? Given her previous standard of living, 20,000 is a fortune. If we hadn't taken her in, she'd still be starving. She should be grateful. In his eyes, I didn't deserve anything better. Mr. Shin brought a share transfer agreement, saying he wanted to give me 10% of the company's shares. I didn't accept a single thing from them. A few years ago, I might have needed it, but now I can afford to buy it myself. Mr. Shin's face was full of remorse. We failed you by not finding you sooner. I just want to make it up to you. Even if you had found me sooner, I might not have gone with you. After all, I've been living quite well all these years. When money couldn't sway me, they tried the emotional approach. 11, Mrs. Shin came to the Lin household every day to chat with my mother about my childhood. After all, she is my birth mother. Seeing her show concern for me, my mom treated her with courtesy in return. Every time she saw me, Mrs. Shin would take me aside and pour out her feelings of guilt. In my past life, I suffered so much in the orphanage, yet she showed little remorse. A month later, I had grown much closer to her. She then suggested staying here for a while to get to know me better. I set her up in a guest room. Snow, isn't this mattress a bit too firm? And the room doesn't get any sun. The decor isn't great. And the lighting. I chuckled softly. Really, we've been living here just fine. That morning, I was just about to head out to work. Mom, Dad, I've scheduled a checkup for you. Don't forget. Shishu will be by to pick you up in a bit. Got it. I'll remember. Seeing this, Mrs. Shin asked cautiously, Snow, I haven't been feeling too well myself lately. Could I come along? I hadn't even noticed until she mentioned it. In her past life, Shin's mother was a radiant figure. She had regular beauty treatments, was always adorned with jewelry, never wore anything out of fashion, and lived a life of considerable luxury. The woman before me now looked weary, dressed plainly in outdated clothes from previous years, without a single piece of jewelry in sight. "Ma'am, this checkup was scheduled in advance. Perhaps you could wait for the next available slot." She nodded helplessly. "All right, next time is just an empty promise. In my past life, when I returned to the Shin family, every one of them promised to make it up to me. Their words were sweeter than any song. In the end, all they offered were empty words. I'm taking Shelley on a trip. I'll take you next time. They think the cheap clothes I wear are tacky. I'll take you shopping in a few days. You'll have everything Shelley has. People in our circle are all abuzz about my background. We'll throw a party for you soon to formally introduce you." Mrs. Shin took me to an important event and, for once, bought me a set of jewelry. Just because Shelley liked it, she gave it to her. I'll buy another set to make it up to you. Not a single one came true. I've lost count of all the empty promises I fell for in my past life. No sooner had I finished speaking than Shinsu arrived. She greeted my parents. Upon seeing her, Mrs. Shin's expression turned grim. "Snow, this is..." I carried on as if I hadn't noticed, introducing her. "This is Shinsu, my best friend and a renowned neurologist. She was just on her way to work at the hospital and offered to give my parents a ride." Shinsu greeted her politely, as if she didn't recognize her. Mrs. Shin gave an awkward reply before retreating nervously to her room. After work that day, I made a special trip to the luxury boutique. I picked up the latest season's clothes and handbags, and even went on a spree at the jewelry store. My mother has never been fond of such luxury goods. The things I bought for her in the past just ended up gathering dust. But this time, I shopped entirely according to Mrs. Shin's tastes. Mrs. Shin's eyes nearly popped out of her head the moment she saw the shopping bags. "Snow, you bought so much." She greeted me with a beaming smile. My mom glanced over from the couch and sighed. "You bought all this again. I told you not to waste your money. You should keep it for yourself." I said hello to Mrs. Shin and walked past her to sit next to my mom. I brushed it off. "Oh, Mom, these are all gifts from business partners. They said it's a little token of appreciation for you. Don't try to fool me. This must have cost a fortune, didn't it?" In the end, since it was a gift from me, my mom still opened each one to take a look. "But where would I even use these bags?" I chuckled and said, "Well, you could always take them grocery shopping. You should keep these jewels for yourself. They're far too extravagant for someone like me." Mrs. Shin chimed in. "Oh my, isn't this the new necklace from Elle? It's not extravagant at all. It would be perfect with an evening gown." She went on to tell my mother about these brands, and my mother listened attentively, showing her the courtesy. Finally, Mrs. Shin added, with a pointed remark, "I've always been fond of their jewelry." Just as my mom was about to say something, I cut in. "Auntie, I wasn't sure what you'd like, so I only got something for my mom. How about I take you shopping in a few days?" "Oh, okay, Snow is so thoughtful," she said, forcing a thin smile while her eyes remained fixed on the shopping bags. My mom gave me a little poke and shot me a meaningful look, clearly embarrassed. Well, she is my own mother. After all, I had to show some gesture, give her something. I pretended not to see and took out a few more boxes. Those earlier ones were just for show. For Mrs. Shin, this one here is what I actually bought for my mom. She doesn't care for diamonds, but she adores jade and jadeite. She opened the box and was genuinely delighted. "Oh. The jade bracelet and emerald earrings are of excellent quality, understated and elegant. I had someone source a few fine pieces of jade. I'll take you to pick some out this weekend. I don't know much about these things myself and could easily be swindled," she joked. "All right, with my eagle eye, I guarantee no one will be able to fool us." My mom and I chatted while unpacking things, with Mrs. Shin watching quietly from the side. That evening, Mrs. Shin came to see me in private. "Snow," she asked, "when are you going to take me for that checkup you mentioned last time?" I frowned slightly. "Auntie, you seem perfectly healthy to me, but I just don't feel right. I've never lived like this before." My face fell. "What do you mean, Auntie? If you're not happy with the conditions here, you're free to leave." She hurried to explain. "That's not what I meant. I'm just a bit worn out these past couple of days. Maybe you could take me for a massage sometime, and if possible, I'd love a facial treatment too. I really don't have the time. We'll talk about it another day." Shin's mother was deeply hurt. "You have time to pick out jewelry for your adoptive mother, but no time to show any concern for your birth mother." "Enough," I snapped sharply. "How can you possibly compare yourself to my mom? She saved my life, raised me all those years, and even after having her own son, she treated me as her own. You never raised me for a single day. What gives you the right to be compared to my adoptive parents?" Shin's mother had never been subjected to such humiliation. After all, Shin's father didn't bother with domestic affairs. She had always been the one in charge at home, and her 3 children had always indulged her. Her expression was furious, laced with a tone of disdain. "They're just 2 teachers. Sure, they raised you, so give them some money to repay the debt and be done with it." That way they won't cling to you for the rest of your life. We are your flesh and blood, your real family. I'm the one who gave birth to you. I coldly shook her off. Then let me make this perfectly clear to you now. The Lin family is my home, and they are the only parents I recognize. If you can't respect my family, then there's no need for the Shin family to stay in contact with me. Mrs. Shin looked utterly heartbroken, as if I had wounded her deeply, and left in tears. 12. Lucas is here. This was the first time I'd seen him in my life, and I almost didn't recognize him. Gone was the arrogance of the Yen master from a powerful family, the domineering swagger he had when bullying others. He no longer acted superior or looked down on me when we met. He was quiet, awkward, and hesitant. Lucas graduated from a junior college last year and, just like in his past life, had no particular skills to speak of in this life. The Shin family could no longer afford to let him live as a spendthrift Yen master. He's currently working as Shelley's assistant. That's right, the Yen master of the Shin family is playing errand boy to the adopted daughter, Mrs. Shin explained. Shelley said to let him start as an assistant to gain some experience. When the time is right, she'll bring him into the entertainment industry to become a star. The Fu Group is a well-known entertainment company, and Shelley is now the Yen madam of the Fu family. It should be a piece of cake for Lucas to break into showbiz. Why on earth is he working as an assistant, unless Shelley never intended to give him any resources in the first place? Being a lackey isn't so bad either. Wasn't that his favorite thing to do back in the day? At least he's staying true to his roots. I took the initiative to greet Lucas. You must be Lucas, right? He looked up at me and said quietly, sis. In his past life, he never once called me sis. I replied with a smile and handed him the brand new phone I had just bought. I heard you're into gaming. This model specs are perfect for that. Seeing this, Mrs. Shin was grinning from ear to ear. Ever since our last argument, things had been frosty between us. Now, she seemed to see an opening. Blood is thicker than water. Lucas, you should get along with your sister Snow. Lucas took the phone a bit sheepishly. Thanks, sis. Miles had just gotten home from school and was absolutely furious. Snow, wasn't that phone bought for me? Lucas was at a complete loss for words. I nodded. It was for you, but Lucas is here now, isn't he? Miles yelled. Then just take him to buy one next time. You promised me a new phone if my grades improved. I've been in tutoring for 3 months. 3 whole months. Have you no heart? My mom stopped him. Miles, don't be rude. Lucas is like a brother to you too. Lucas shrank back and said, I'm sorry. I don't want it anymore. I pushed it back into his hand. It's fine. You keep it. You're like a little brother to me too. I gave Miles a light tap on the head. I just met him. What's wrong with giving a little welcome gift? Can't you let him have this one? Hearing this, Lucas's eyes lit up a little, as if he hadn't expected me to take his side. Humph. Miles stormed upstairs in a huff. Lucas looked worried. Sis, did I make him angry? I chuckled softly. It's not your fault. Go on, open it. See if you like the phone. Lucas, who hadn't felt special in a long time, happily opened his phone. Thanks, sis. A moment later, Miles came running downstairs, his earlier anger gone and a smile back on his face. He was holding an identical phone. Heh, sis, I knew you wouldn't let me down. I rolled my eyes. I was just kidding. Don't take it so seriously. I knew Lucas was coming, so I bought an extra phone. I put it in his room ahead of time. Lucas stared at the phone in his hand, caught in a dilemma. Holding onto it felt wrong, but putting it down felt just as awkward. But in an instant, he realized that the favoritism he just witnessed was nothing more than a private joke between Miles and me. Over dinner that evening, the conversation turned to Miles's academic performance. Mrs. Shin asked. Miles is about to take the college entrance exams, right? How are his grades looking? My mom, not bad. Getting into a top-tier university shouldn't be a problem, but she's no match for Snow, who graduated from Peking University. When it comes to academic achievements, parents can't help but show a little pride. Mrs. Shin, oh, is that so? Snow is so accomplished. My eldest son also graduated from Peking University. They're truly cut from the same cloth. Shelley's grades were good too. But she insisted on going abroad to study acting, and now look at her, a big star. Lucas, who wasn't mentioned once the entire time, kept his head down, the food tasting like ash in his mouth. I watched him quietly, serving him generous helpings of all his favorite dishes. He was pleasantly surprised, and didn't even question how I knew his preferences. 13. Lucas will be staying with us for a few days, Mrs. Shin said. It's a chance for us siblings to bond. After dinner, I played a couple of games with Miles. Gaming can lead to arguments, and after losing, I got so mad I started a fight with him. I had the upper hand. What was that last round all about? Don't blame me. This is clearly your fault, Mrs. Shin urged my mom to step in and sort it out. Oh, come on. Snow is a girl. How could you bully her? My mom couldn't have cared less. Let them be. If you can't win a fight, you deserve what you get. Lucas watched from the side, filled with envy. In the Shin household, no one dared to speak a harsh word to Shelley. Anyone who made Shelley cry would face the wrath of the entire family. This parenting approach was fundamentally flawed. Instead of loving each child equally, they chose to elevate one by putting another down, showering one with excessive favor. The whole family dotes on Shelley. The concern is not scarcity, but inequality. Favoritism naturally breeds discontent. As the family heir, Hugo can naturally afford to spoil his sister a little more, but what about Lucas? In my past life, I had a vague sense of his jealousy. It's just that Shelley was the favorite, so he didn't dare voice any complaints. Besides, I was at the very bottom of the food chain, someone he could always look down on. That was another reason he bullied me. He was jealous, he was afraid. I'm better than him in every way, and he's afraid I'll outrank him at home. So he used Shelley as an excuse to put me down and bully me, just to boost his own sense of superiority. After the fight with Miles, I grabbed Hugo and we headed to the server room on the second floor. This place was practically Miles's private domain, stocked with a full suite of electronics. Miles also has a collection of many discontinued game consoles. No one plays them anymore, but he enjoys studying them. So I helped him gather a few. When Lucas walked in, his face was full of envy. That feeling is all too familiar to me. I felt the same way back then, after staying in a guest room at the Shin family's house for a few days and seeing Shelley's lavishly decorated master suite. Lucas has always loved gaming. In this life and the last, Miles has been into video games since he was a kid, too. When my dad found out, he didn't forbid it, but he didn't just let it slide either. Instead, he steered him towards game development during the summer and winter breaks. I enrolled him in courses to give him a basic introduction to computers and software development. Miles took a real interest in it. He even wrote a simple game program himself and met some like-minded friends along the way. Lucas and Miles played a few rounds together and came out still wanting more. 14. I've been taking Lucas out shopping whenever I have a spare moment, buying him things he likes. Mrs. Shin was happy to see it, noticing his clothes were getting a bit worn. I took him to buy some new ones. He said he admired the game consoles in Miles's collection, so I took him to get the same models. He admired Miles's watch, so I got him one the very next day. In short, I wanted him to feel the same level of devotion that Shelley received. This was someone who initially hesitated to even ask for a phone. Now seeing someone willing to fulfill his every wish without question, Lucas was both deeply touched and a little overwhelmed, and he gradually began to open up to me. He hinted to me, in a roundabout way, that Shelley had been treating him quite poorly. I was taken aback. How could that be? Shelley is such a sweet, kind-hearted girl. How can you say that about her? As I said it, I almost laughed, but managed to keep a straight face. He grumbled, "How do you know she's so sweet and kind-hearted?" I put on an innocent face, and Shin told me, "Besides, I'm a bit of a fan myself and I actually really enjoy her shows. That's all an illusion. She's very good at putting on an act. Even her public persona in the entertainment industry is fake." No way. Lucas lowered his head dejectedly and offered no further explanation. He must have told his family many times by now, and he's probably given up hope. I kept pushing. Shelley might just be in a bit of a mood, after all. She's been your sister for all these years. You shouldn't assume the worst of her. He gave a bitter smile. If only it had been you living with me all these years. A smile tugged at the corner of my mouth, but my eyes were full of mockery. Lucas's situation is the most similar to my past life, yet he's faring far better than I ever did. 15. After returning home, Mrs. Shin suddenly suggested that Lucas should leave. "Lucas, you've had plenty of rest these past few days. Why don't you go and stay with your sister? She's not managing well without you." Lucas frowned. "I'm not going. She's a grown woman. Does she really need me to look after her? What are you talking about? It's not safe for a girl like Shelley in the entertainment industry. As her brother, you should be protecting her." "Who says I'm her brother? My real sister is right here. She's just some stray who's been living off our family for years." Isn't that enough? Seeing them start to argue, I held my mom back as she tried to intervene. "We're family. Let's talk this out calmly." My half-hearted attempt to break up the fight was completely useless. "Lucas, haven't you shown enough favoritism over all these years?" "Mrs. Shin, why must you compare yourself to Shelley? She's been sensible and outstanding since she was a child. In what way can you possibly measure up to her? You're still living off the family even now. If you want to get into the entertainment industry later, won't you still need your sister's help?" "Lucas, I don't need her help." Years of pent-up frustration and resentment erupted at that moment, Lucas's voice turning hysterical. "When we were kids, she always got first pick of the best food and toys. If she so much as whimpered, you'd scold me. In high school, she was the one who lied, saying she was being bullied. I was just helping her teach those people a lesson, but in the end, you all blamed me." saying I was bullying classmates and embarrassing you. Then you complained I was too extravagant, so you gave all my allowance to Shelley, but she's had everything she ever wanted since we were kids, and you never once called her wasteful. You wouldn't let me study abroad with her, terrified I'd bully her overseas, but I've told you 100 times, I never laid a hand on her. She set me up. Why won't you believe me? So that's why Lucas couldn't go abroad. Slap, Mrs. Shin slapped him across the face. Lucas, that's your sister. She's been so good to you. How can you be so cruel? I think you're just used to lazing around and don't want to work for her. My mom tried to awkwardly mediate a few times, but it was, after all, their family business, and it wasn't her place to interfere. I watched the scene unfold leisurely from the sidelines. Not cracking sunflower seeds was my final act of respect. Lucas shoved her aside and stormed out the door. My mom hurried over to console Mrs. Shin. Don't be so upset. It's normal for kids to have disagreements. My two fight all the time too. Mrs. Shin was so angry she felt dizzy. I raised 3 children. The eldest is mature and steady. My daughter is sweet and sensible. But this youngest son is just a good-for-nothing layabout. I'm starting to wonder if he was the one switched with Snow at birth. How else could I have given birth to a son like this? TCH. Could be an issue with the education system. Mrs. Shin was so angry she felt dizzy and went back to her room to rest. My mother overheard all the drama from the Shin family and was left utterly bewildered. She sighed and sat there, shaking her head. What a mess. Their family is a complete mess. You and Miles might bicker, but you don't have the same deep-seated resentment that Lucas does. I gave her a hug and said reassuringly, it's all thanks to you and Dad raising us right. Look how harmonious our family is. My mom glanced at me again, a flicker of relief passing through her eyes. I can't say for sure which of those 2 children was right or wrong, but a lot of the conflict between kids stems from parental favoritism. My mother patted my head and said gently, if your birth parents ever mistreat you for the sake of their other children in the future, you tell us, even if it means burning bridges with them. We won't let you suffer that kind of injustice. Hearing that, a lump formed in my throat, and I gave a muffled Scenes from my past life flashed before my eyes. If I had had my parents back then, the Shin family would never have dared to treat me so badly. Thankfully, this time, they're both still alive. Thank you, Mom and Dad, for making me the happiest child in the world. Lucas stormed off in a huff. As his older sister, I should go check on him. When I found him, I saw him kick over a trash can on the side of the road. Pick it up. His face was full of surprise. Sis, what are you doing here? Pick it up, I repeated. He obeyed meekly, shrinking back as he said, I didn't mean to. I was just a little angry. My expression softened, and I spoke earnestly. No matter what, she's still your mother. How could you treat her like that? His eyes welled up with tears, his voice full of hurt. She's not my mom at all. The only person in her heart is Shelley, so your sister. She really treats you that badly. Absolutely. He nodded emphatically. She calls me her assistant, but really, I'm just her punching bag. The moment something doesn't go her way on set, she takes it out on me, yelling, hitting, you name it. And if I ever try to stand up for myself, she puts on this whole act, making everyone think I'm the one bullying her. My expression was a complicated mix of disbelief and pity. I'm sorry to put you through this. Come back with me. His eyes lit up with surprise. You believe me? I gave a faint smile. Of course, you're my own brother. 16, I went to find Mrs. Shin and suggested that Lucas stay a while longer. She was somewhat reluctant, as if worried that if Lucas arrived a moment too late, something terrible might happen to Shelley. In this life and the last, I've always admired the profound, maternal love she has for Shelley. Unlike the rest of the Shin family, her love for Shelley is pure, untainted by ulterior motives or self-interest, born simply from 20 years of shared life. I had no choice but to call Mr. Shin, and only then was Lucas allowed to stay. Lucas was overjoyed when he found out and trusted me, his older sister, even more. However, in the following days, I began to distance myself from him. I had ordered a computer earlier, which was originally meant for him. He personally picked out the style and color. It finally arrived. He opened the computer, gave it a try, and was absolutely delighted with it. Lucas, I looked hesitant, my tone full of reluctance. What's up, sis? The smile hadn't yet faded from his face. Well, Miles improved a lot on his monthly exam this time. I was thinking of giving this computer to him first. His smile froze on his face. He's a senior in high school now. I just want to motivate him to study and get into a good university. You're older than him, so just let him have it. I'll order you a new one later. His expression softened a bit, though reluctant. He nodded. All right, tell you what, you want to get into showbiz, right? A classmate of mine has a father who's a director. I can ask for you, really. Lucas's face lit up with a grin. Thanks, sis. No problem, I said, patting him on the shoulder. I did know a director. but I wasn't about to have the nerve to recommend a complete novice who didn't know the first thing. I told Lucas I'd take him to meet the director over the weekend. On that day, I left the house early and still hadn't returned home by the time we were supposed to meet. Lucas called me. "Hey, where are you?" At that moment, I was just wandering around the C University campus. "Sorry, Lucas, I completely forgot about your thing." I figured since Miles has a rare day off, I'd take him to CC University. Getting a look at his target school might give him some motivation for his studies. Lucas couldn't hide the disappointment in his voice. "But you promised me. Miles is a senior in high school. His situation is more urgent than yours. I'll take you next time." "Not again with next time. You said both Miles and I were like your little brothers." "Enough, he's younger. What are you even arguing with him for?" With that, I hung up the phone impatiently. A moment later, Miles walked over, munching on a biscuit. "Sis, let's transfer to a different school. The cafeteria food here is awful." Me, 17, my attitude made Lucas panic. He had tried several times to have a proper talk with me, but I always brushed him off impatiently, using work as an excuse. On this day, I finally reached out to him first. "Lucas, I'm not busy today. Would you come out shopping with me?" Having endured days of cold treatment, he nodded eagerly the moment I initiated a conversation. "Sure." I drove him to a restaurant. "Let's eat first. As it happens, a friend of mine is here too." "Sis, is that your boyfriend?" He was trying to lighten the mood with a joke. A cryptic look flashed in my eyes. "No, she's my girlfriend." Inside the private room, Chinsu is already waiting. "Lucas, this is my friend, Chinsu." Lucas clearly didn't remember the person in front of him, yet he greeted them warmly. "Hello, Sister Chin." "I'm Lucas." Chinsu remained seated, offering no reply, and simply stared at him coldly. "So, this is the brother you just found?" Lucas smiled and said, "Did my sister mention me to you?" Suddenly, Chinsu sprang to her feet and slapped Lucas across the face. She put her whole body into the blow, leaving a vivid handprint on Lucas's cheek. Stunned by the slap, she looked to me for help. "Sis," before I could finish, another slap landed. After Chinsu landed the third hit, I couldn't keep pretending to be dead. "Susu, what's wrong with you?" Chinsu asked. "Lucas, don't you remember me?" He genuinely didn't remember. Of course, he'd bullied so many people. How could he possibly remember every single one? But what right does a bully have to forget? "You may have forgotten, but I remember it all too clearly. You tore up my exam papers, dumped food on my head, poured ink on my chair, and had your friends drag me into an alley to beat me up." With every word, Lucas grew paler. He might not remember Chinsu, but he knew he had bullied many people. Lucas grabbed my arm in a panic. "Sis, it wasn't me." I shook him off coldly, walked over to stand beside Chinsu, and looked at him with disgust. "Chinsu is my friend. She wouldn't lie to me." He tried to grab Chinsu's arm again. "I'm sorry, Chinsu. I was immature before. I can make it up to you. Please don't let my sister be angry with me." "Okay, get lost." He was met with another slap. Seeing the act had gone on long enough, I said coldly, "Lucas, you should head back now. I need to speak with Chinsu alone." "Sis, get out." He had no choice but to leave. I closed the compartment door and turned to see Chinsu leaning back in his chair. "Sweet," I chuckled softly. "It's not over yet. I won't let him off the hook." 18. The real show is yet to come tonight. When I got home, my parents happened to be out, so I could really let loose. I looked at the trembling Lucas and said to Mrs. Shin, "Auntie, please ask him to leave. He's no longer welcome here." Mrs. Shin asked, puzzled. "Snow, what's wrong? Did this boy upset you?" "Sis," Lucas was on the verge of tears. "Don't call me sis. You drove my best friend to the brink of suicide. It can't just be Chinsu. How many people have you bullied?" The moment those words were spoken, Mrs. Shin understood everything. She grabbed Lucas and started hitting him. "You wretched boy. I told you to behave. How did I ever give birth to a son like you? And now you're even bullying Snow's friend." After she finished, Mrs. Shin looked at me cautiously. "Go on," I said with a light chuckle, worried her hand might hurt. I helpfully handed her a rolling pin. "Use this." Mrs. Shin's face stiffened. Then she gritted her teeth and swung it at Lucas. I stood there watching, really wishing Chinsu could see this too. Only after the beating was over did Mrs. Shin speak softly. "Snow, your brother was definitely in the wrong, but what's done is done. He was expelled back then, and we compensated that girl with money. Lucas has already been punished. He is your own brother. After all, you can't side with an outsider, can you?" I said coldly. "I don't care about blood ties. What is a brother I barely know compared to a friend I've had for years? Besides, this was his fault to begin with. He bullied so many people. Is a simple expulsion enough? Can money really make up for the harm he caused?" "Lucas, Chinsu was the top scorer in the National College entrance exam that year. A girl of her caliber had the misfortune of meeting you. A good-for-nothing like you almost ruined a genius's life." Lucas fell to his knees before me, weeping. Sis, I know I was wrong. It's all Shelley's fault. She tricked me. Enough. I slapped him. You're still lying. Chinsu already told me everything. You're the one who had her beaten up. Your mother was right about you. You're a real piece of work. And now you're trying to drag your own sister into this. I gradually steered the conversation back to Shelley. I always said there was no way a kind woman like Shelley could be as awful as you claim. You said she was always hitting and yelling at you, but I think it's you who's been bullying her, isn't it, Lucas? Do you just enjoy hitting people, after all the kindness I've shown you? Are you going to hit me next? Lucas grabbed my leg, shaking his head frantically. No, it's all Shelley's fault. Why do you all believe her instead of me? She's a conniving, vicious woman. As if possessed, he knelt on the ground, muttering to himself. It's all her fault. If it weren't for Shelley, I wouldn't have ended up like this. I wouldn't have been expelled. I would be the one studying abroad, the one breaking into the entertainment industry, the one being praised and welcomed. It's all her fault, all her fault. Huh. I couldn't help but laugh out loud. You're still shirking responsibility. Lucas, you're disgusting. How can Mrs. Shin have the nerve to stay here after all this? Auntie, I don't want to see Lucas ever again. I'm going to kick him out. My parents are soft-hearted, and they probably feel too awkward to face you now either. You should go back to the Shin family. It'll save everyone the awkwardness. Snow, Mrs. Shin tried to plead. I didn't give her the chance and had someone pack her things for her right away. When my parents came back, I told them about what happened with Lucas, feeling too awkward to stay any longer, and Shin left with her son. My parents were furious when they heard. And not just because they felt for Chinsu, both being teachers, they place great importance on education and have a particular loathing for school bullying. My dad waved his hand dismissively. I think Snow should keep her distance from the Shin family. Their family values are poor, and the parents bear a lot of the responsibility. When their child makes a mistake, not only do they fail to discipline him properly, but they also use their family's wealth and influence to cover for him, indulging him without any limits. Aren't other people's children precious too? My mom looked puzzled and said, Lucas seems so meek, even a bit spineless. I can't believe he'd be capable of something like this. I gave a cold laugh. He wasn't always so spineless. That's all thanks to Shelley. Every villain meets their match. With Mrs. Shin and Lucas gone, it was my biological father's turn next. 19. Mr. Shin was a man who placed immense importance on face and family interests in my past life. His favoritism towards Shelley stemmed first and foremost from her better fit for the image of a Shin family heiress. Secondly, it was because of Shelley's engagement to the young master of the Fu family, and I, a child raised in an orphanage, would only bring shame to Father Shin. At my first banquet, I was nervous and timid, which invited ridicule. Afterwards, instead of guiding or teaching me, he slapped me across the face. You're a disgrace. I have no daughter as shameful as you, so. He turned a blind eye to Mrs. Shin's favoritism and looked the other way when Lucas bullied me. Later, when I worked at Shin Corporation and proved my capabilities, I gradually earned his care and recognition. He would introduce me to business partners, saying proudly, "This is my daughter." By then, I was no longer moved by that hypocritical display of paternal love. I want the Shin family's shares, yet he said to me, Chloe, know your place. I'm just an employee working for him. When I wanted to leave the Shin family's business, he was unwilling to let go of the benefits I brought him. He said, if you can no longer create value for the Shin family, then obediently enter a marriage alliance to secure benefits. Later, I botched a project. Someone leaked the design blueprints in advance, causing massive losses for the company. Old Mr. Shin knew perfectly well that I wasn't the one who leaked the blueprints, yet he still pinned the blame on me. Chloe, I only care about results and the bottom line. I have a suspect in mind for who leaked the blueprints, but before I could find any evidence, I was kidnapped along with Shelley. I have a theory that the person who framed me is the same one who kidnapped me. I was the only real target. Kidnapping Shelley was just a smokescreen. What kind of kidnapper in their right mind forces two hostages to choose between each other? That's just insane. Since when does a kidnapper turn down extra ransom money? They had the chance to steal the Shin Corporation's blueprints and managed to kidnap both me and Shelley at the same time. Most importantly, this person has a conflict of interest with me. I can't think of anyone else besides Hugo and Lucas. As for Lucas, I have doubts about his capabilities. 20. Not long after Mrs. Shin left, Mr. Shin contacted me. In the restaurant, his expression was grave. The Shin family can cut ties with Lucas. What? I exclaimed in surprise. He said with complete seriousness, I will no longer provide him with any financial support. Whatever you wish to do to him, I will not stand in your way. Ha, and here I thought he came to plead for mercy. Then again, that's just like Mr. Shin. He's your own flesh and blood, I said sarcastically. He smiled indifferently. Snow, you're clever. A little trick was all it took to drive a wedge between Lucas and Shelley. Do they even have feelings left for each other? I shot back. My phone buzzed with an entertainment news alert. Hashtag top actress Shelley bullies newcomers. Hashtag Shelley assaults assistant. Hashtag Shelley ruined an actress's face. Every post came with photos and a few crystal clear videos. They left her no room to whitewash her image. You didn't need to guess to know it was Lucas's doing. All that time I spent provoking him finally paid off. I looked at Mr. Shin. You knew about Lucas all along, didn't you? He was aware of all the injustices he had suffered. He knew about Shelley's bullying and physical abuse towards him, just as in his past life. He chose to stand by and do nothing, Father Shin said coldly. He brought it upon himself. He didn't come here today to talk about family ties. The moment I drove Mrs. Shin and the others out of the Lin family, he realized that appealing to my sense of family was pointless, so he didn't bother putting on the act of a doting father anymore. You're more capable than all three of them. Zhaoyang has only been around for 3 years and has already grown to this scale. The potential is limitless. If you hadn't been taken away by the nanny back then, I would have raised you to be an outstanding successor. I don't believe you. My reply was too quick and too blunt. Causing a flicker of a crack in Mr. Shin's composure, he produced a new share transfer agreement. Then I can agree to it right now. I didn't even glance at it. Mr. Shin, I'm not a fool. What's left of the Shin group that you could possibly give to me now? Young people need to think long term, he said with conviction. The Shin and Fu families are collaborating on a project. If this project succeeds, the Shin group can be brought back from the brink. It was obvious that Shelley had facilitated this cooperation, and the conditions. You're not just giving it to me for free, are you? I need 50 million in funding. How much? I was utterly shocked. Mr. Shin, I built this business from the ground up. It wasn't easy. If I hand over all my liquid capital like this, how is my company supposed to keep running? He said with a carefree expression. What's there to worry about? Once the project succeeds and the funds cycle back, you'll get your money back immediately. Eventually, the entire Shin group will be yours. More empty promises. I shook my head. I don't accept. He was puzzled. You're not satisfied with a surefire deal like this. A faint smile touched my lips. It's not about satisfaction. I just don't trust you. What if you screw me over? You, Mr. Shin sputtered in anger. Just kidding. I cut him off quickly. The reason I won't work with you is, I'm a fine, upstanding socialist youth. And I firmly oppose all lawbreakers. The next second, a phone rang, cutting off the anger Mr. Shin had been building up once more. I pointed at the phone. I know you're angry, but hold that thought. He shot me a wary, uncertain look after hanging up the phone. Snow, was that you? I gave a light chuckle. No, it was you. Soon, the news about the Shin group's tax evasion will break. Everyone will know that the successful Mr. Shin is nothing but a sanctimonious hypocrite. Snow. He slammed the table in anger. I am your father. My father is Ian. He taught me to abide by the law and hold myself to a high standard. As for you, I gave him a cool, dismissive glance. I have no such disgrace for a father. I was the one who anonymously reported the Shin Corporation. And yes, I was the one who handed the evidence over to the tax authorities. I have no interest in taking anything from the Shin family. But I don't intend to leave anything for them either, Mr. Shin is a selfish and cold-blooded man. He cares nothing for family ties, to the point of abandoning his own son. In that case, I'll destroy the career he's so proud of, along with the reputation he values most. 21, Mr. Shin is headed for prison. Shelley's dirty laundry is still hanging out online, and Lucas can't handle the pressure. At this critical moment, Hugo, the current pillar of the Shin family, is nowhere to be found. The Fu Group withdrew its investment and terminated its partnership with the Shin Group. With the Shin family owing so much in back taxes, they had no choice but to turn to Shelley for a loan. Shelley gave them the cold shoulder. In response, Mrs. Shin and Lucas made a scene at the Fu Group headquarters, only to be thrown out by security. Mrs. Shin came looking for me several times, but she was stopped at the door each time. When my parents found out, they just sighed and didn't get involved. My father even gave me a stern interrogation, telling me, a gentleman may love wealth, but he must acquire it in the proper way. I replied helplessly, Dad, I pay my taxes. With things having come to this, I thought Hugo would come looking for me. After all, with Mr. Shin away, he's the one in charge of the Shin family, but it was Shelley I saw first. 22, Shelley, the one who stole my identity from the moment she was born, the very source of my suffering for over 20 years in my past life. And I'm only meeting her now. I've taken my revenge on Father Shin, Mother Shin, Lucas, and the Shin family business, yet I've never laid a finger on her. Even the current scandal surrounding her was orchestrated by Lucas, even though I was the one who deliberately provoked it. Do you think I don't hate her? Of course I do, but compared to her, I hate my own flesh and blood even more. In my past life, I harbored resentment over the 16 years Shelley stole from me, yet I was powerless to change it. After returning to the Shin family, at first, Shelley only had minor schemes. She was testing the waters to see how the Shin family would react. It was their gradual indulgence that emboldened Shelley to hurt me. All it took was a few of her tears, and my own family turned against me, blaming, cursing, and even striking me. She told a simple lie, and every one of my relatives believed her without question. Finding out the truth wouldn't have been hard for them, yet they all decided it was my fault. If only they had loved me enough, perhaps I wouldn't have had to go through all that suffering. Shelley merely handed them the knife, and those so-called family members proceeded to carve me up, piece by piece. I despise Shelley, but I hate them 1,000 times more. So, you're Snow? Shelley was dressed to the nines, her eyes brimming with arrogance and disdain. It's me, she gave a cold smile. Nothing special. My elder brother said you were impressive. But I've looked into your company. Compared to a decades-old conglomerate like the Fu families, it's still far behind. I chuckled lightly. What you're really saying is that I'm not as good as you, that I'll never measure up to you, right? She nodded. That's the truth, I scoffed. What gives you the nerve to say that? Your mountain of scandals. With the Fu family backing me, why would I worry about resources, even if I quit being an entertainer? I could just retire and live the life of a wealthy socialite. Snow. You have no idea how much I hate you, she said, her eyes filled with venom. Do you hate me? I don't understand. Even though you took my place, I never wanted to take any of it back. What gives you the right to hate me? She sneered. Why are you the true Shin family heiress, while I'm destined to be the fake one? Why wasn't I the one born into the Shin family? Ever since I was 16, I've lived in constant fear, terrified that you'd show up one day. And after our parents found out the truth, they said they'd still treat me as their own daughter, but deep down, they've never stopped thinking about you. I can't be bothered to argue with her. People like her, so greedy, are never satisfied no matter how much they get. My fault, is it? I said, deliberately being a jerk. I just got lucky. Whose fault is it that you were born to the maid, or that you couldn't keep your own secret, or that they still remember me, you? Her lips were white with fury. So what if you've been recognized by the Shin family now? You're just unlucky. If you'd come back a few years earlier, you could have played the part of the Yen mistress, but now the Shin family has nothing left, while I'm still the Yen madam of the Fu family. Is that your excuse for helping your husband's family ruin your own? I retorted, stealing Shin Corporation's secrets, intercepting their projects, poaching their top executives, paving the way for Fu Beiheng step by step. You really do love him, don't you? Shelley said in a panic. I don't know what you're talking about, I said calmly. The fact that I know about these things means I've found the evidence. She was stunned for a long moment before regaining her composure. So what if you know? I'm determined to destroy the Shin family before you return. Even if you're the biological heir, you'll get nothing. I shrugged. It makes no difference to me. It's not my interests that are being harmed. Her brow furrowed. What do you mean? You're not planning to go back to the Shin family. Did she think I was going back to be a down-and-out heiress, and that's why she came here to lord it over me? I didn't answer her. After saving the recording, I stood up and left. In this lifetime, I have no intention of doing anything to Shelley. I much prefer to watch her reap what she sows. 23. Ever since I reconnected with the Shin family, I've had people discreetly keeping tabs on their movements. Now, with such a major incident happening to the Shin family, Hugo still hasn't come to see me. Something's not right. I can't track his movements. Go stay in the dorm for a while, I said to Miles. Why? Since you're a boarder with evening study. You can get more practice papers done. I study just as much when I go home. Just go if you're told to go. I'm not going. The dorm beds are uncomfortable. I shot him a look. Still sleeping. Don't you know you're a senior in high school? How can you sleep at your age? Miles, Snow, you're not trying to send me away so you can inherit the 3 acres of land back home all by yourself, are you? Me. I'll give you the money. He gave an ingratiating smile and a slight bow. Right away, Mr. Lin. After sending Miles on his way, I arranged for my parents to take some time off and had them sent on a relaxing vacation to Country M. They were reluctant at first. I said, I have to go on a business trip to discuss a project. How are you going to face the Shin family if they come looking for me? My parents don't like that family, but because of my blood ties to them, they don't want to make a scene. It's better to just avoid them. I can't exactly tell them about being reborn. It's too unbelievable. They'd never buy it. I've arranged for bodyguards near the school and around my parents. Remembering my kidnapping in my past life, I can still almost feel the weightlessness of falling off the cliff and the agony of my bones shattering. 24. The Lin family villa stood empty. Someone had to move in. I brought Mrs. Shin and Lucas back with me. In the living room, Lucas was huddled in the corner, clearly still too afraid to face me. Mrs. Shin looked haggard, her face streaked with tears. Snow, please help your father. We've even mortgaged the old house, and we still can't raise enough money. I ignored his sobbing pleas and asked directly, where's Hugo? Mrs. Shin replied, your eldest brother has also gone to try and raise funds. Where did he go? I asked impatiently. Not sure. He said he was going abroad to see a friend. Abroad, when, just 3 days ago, my heart sank. That was around the same time my parents went abroad. I gathered my thoughts. What on earth happened? Wasn't Shelley the apple of your eye? She's so kind-hearted. How could she not help you? Don't even mention her. An adopted child never truly becomes your own. We raised her in the lap of luxury, even prepared such a generous dowry for her, and yet she won't even lend us this small amount of money, I said with clear indignation. Well, it's true I'm not close to you, since Shelley has enjoyed all the benefits of the Shin family's resources. She should be taking on the responsibilities in my place. How could she treat you like that? Lucas snapped at Mrs. Shin. How many times have I told you, she's a vicious woman, but you just wouldn't listen, Mrs. Shin said. Enough, it's too late for any of that now. She clutched my hand as if it were her last lifeline. Snow, please help us. If the Shin family can just get through this crisis, we will make it up to you properly. Even family bonds can be nurtured. I awkwardly pulled my hand back. I want to help, but I don't have that kind of money. The Lin family isn't some wealthy dynasty, and my company is still new. How could I possibly have saved up that much? Then what should we do? Lucas muttered sullenly. Don't drag my sister into this. You brought it on yourselves for trusting Shelley so blindly. Serves you right. Shelley came to see me once, I said, producing the recording from last time. I never imagined she would harm the Shin family to this extent. My conversation with Shelley got out. I edited my own part of the conversation a bit. Shelley admitted in her own words that she deliberately drove the Shin family business to ruin, step by step, for Fubeihan. Mrs. Shin broke down. Lucas's face was dark with malice. I'm going to kill that bitch. Enough. I cut them off. You can't even get near her right now. Don't overestimate yourselves, I sighed. I'll figure something out. The Shin family's villa and ancestral home have both been mortgaged. I told them to live here without worry. Lucas looked at me with a moved expression, as if I were still his dear older sister, 25. It was as if Shin's mother had found an emotional anchor. She settled into my home with a sense of relief, waiting for me to sort everything out. That day, I received a call from an unknown number. I hear you've been looking for me. His voice, once gentle and warm, was now low and menacing. Damn. You're really good at hiding. After a long silence, I murmured, Hugo, little sister, it seems you always land on your feet, every single time. What do you mean? My throat tightened. He chuckled softly. You've been reborn too, haven't you? I took a deep breath. Where are you? Even now. He still wasn't planning to show himself. Country, what's this? Kidnapped me in a past life, and now you're coming for my parents. Huh. If I kidnap you this time, who's going to help me raise the money? What good is the money to you? The Shin group is finished. Kidnapping is a crime. There's no coming back from this for you. He let out a cold laugh. Who said I was going back? I see. You really are just like your father. No wonder he chose you as his successor, I said, exasperated. Hugo, why on earth did you try to ruin me in our past life? My last life was already miserable enough. Who on earth did I ever get in the way of? I was on the verge of gaining the ability to break free from the Shin family and stand on my own, and then they went and killed me. Snow, I hate this indifferent look of yours the most, he said through gritted teeth. This sounds familiar. It's as if every member of the Shin family has said something similar to me. Why can't you just be content like Shelley, living as a little princess, or be a good-for-nothing like Lucas? I could be a good brother to you, protect you just like I protect them. The Shin family's wealth is more than enough for you to squander as you please, yet, you insist on competing with me. You want to take my place in Shin Corp. The projects I couldn't close, you solve with ease. I'm truly jealous of you. Even father is paying you more and more attention. So don't blame me for being ruthless. I suddenly burst into uncontrollable laughter, my eyes growing hot with tears. Just think about what happened in my past life. Shelley was jealous that I was the real heiress, but the truth was, the Shin family only loved her, the imposter. Lucas was jealous of my good grades, but the fact is, he could still live the life of a young master without ever lifting a finger. Hugo is jealous that I have Mr. Shin's favor, but the truth is, his father only sees me as a pawn. My life is clearly more miserable than any of theirs, yet they all envy me. They won't be satisfied until they've ground me into the dirt. Hugo, I want 100 million. Wire it to this overseas account within 5 days, or you can forget about ever seeing your parents again. After all, you wouldn't want to lose your family in both lifetimes, would you? He's even more demanding than his old man. Where on earth am I supposed to get that kind of money? What? Do you think I own a bank? If the money's not enough, sell the house and the stocks. Still not enough. Don't you have company shares? He said, his tone utterly infuriating. I let out a cold laugh. Hugo, when did I ever say my parents went to country? You did lie to me, but I never said I found them in country. If you want them to stay alive, wire the money on time. Hugo hung up the phone. I quickly checked on my parents and Miles, and only breathed a sigh of relief after confirming they were safe. Back at the Lin family villa, Mrs. Shin and Lucas were gone. The house was in complete disarray, the bodyguards were injured, and the police had already arrived. The kidnappers were Hugo's men, but Hugo himself is abroad. They didn't even bother to video call each other after they caught him. I sent the recording of the call to the police and told them he was blackmailing me. Even the police couldn't quite wrap their heads around the family situation, but the fact remains, the mastermind behind the kidnapping is a Shin, and the victim is also a Shin. I explained. Well, it's a wealthy family, you know how it is. I did drop my parents off at the airport a few days ago, but they never boarded a plane, let alone went abroad. Hugo went all the way overseas for nothing. While I was the one who picked up Mrs. Shin and Lucas at that exact time. Talk about a misunderstanding. So where did my parents go? They farmed the land back in their hometown. After my grandparents passed away, the family's 3 acres of land were left to go fallow. 26. On the 5th day, I received a call from an unknown number. When I answered, the first thing I heard were the desperate cries for help from Mrs. Shin and Lucas. Mrs. Shin's voice was hoarse from crying. Snow, I know I was wrong. I'm so sorry, my child. My hand tightened slightly. So, she remembers too, sis. It's not that we didn't want to save you, it's all Shelley's fault. She's the one who, an unfamiliar man's voice cut through their cries. Miss Lynn, have you gathered enough money? My mind was still reeling from what Shin's mother and the others had said, and I couldn't quite process it. It's better that I remember, that way, I can take my revenge on them with a clear conscience. Why should I be the only one who remembers all that injustice? Hello? Are you dead? Speak up, damn it. My throat was parched, and I whispered hoarsely, I want to say something to them. There was a stunned silence on the other end. Snow, it's Mom. Please, you have to help me. Auntie, I cut her off. My parents are missing too. I can't just abandon them. Snow and Shelley have been kidnapped as well. We have to save her. Please don't blame me. Don't blame us. The crying on the other end of the line stopped abruptly. I decisively hung up the phone. Even though Shelley hurt me, she was never the one who made me feel wronged. After all, Shelley is an outsider, but they're my family. I sent the recording of that call to the police and cooperated with their investigation. I don't care what happens to them, but helping the police solve the case is the right thing to do. 27. Hugo was extradited back to the country and went in to see his father. After all, he was her own son, Mrs. Shin originally didn't want to press charges, but Lucas wouldn't have it. Under Lucas's relentless exposés, Shelley withdrew from the entertainment industry. The 3 children raised by the Shin family ultimately turned against each other in a bitter feud. How could favoritism not breed resentment? In this lifetime, I've never made a move against Shelley. First, because I was too preoccupied dealing with the rest of the Shin family. Second, because she was simply too foolish. Although I despise the Shin family, I have to admit they were indeed Shelley's most powerful backers. Now that the Shin family has fallen, I wonder if the Fu family will still want a disgraced young mistress. As for Fu Beihan, what kind of decent person would go to such lengths to ruin his own father-in-law's family? 2 months later, I learned of Shelley's death. Lucas was the one who did it. He was a madman in his past life, and the resentment spanning 2 lifetimes was more than enough to cost Shelley her life. Fu Beiheng had him sent to prison, determined to seek justice for his late wife, a move that earned him considerable public acclaim. Shin's mother came looking for me several times, only to find we had already moved away. How she fares from now on is none of my concern. 28. Sis, come blow out the candles. Miles just got his acceptance letter, and we're throwing a celebration party. Mom was all smiles, beaming from ear to ear as she humbly accepted the congratulations from our relatives and friends. Dad, having had a few too many, had one arm around me and the other around Miles. I've taught so many brilliant students, but the ones I'm most proud of are still these 2 kids of mine. Come on, second uncle, let's open another bottle. Miles complained. I ended up at C University after all, but the food there is awful. Sis, how about you donate a cafeteria to the school? I shot him a look of exasperation. Get lost. End of text. Story 2. I stole Mom's winning lottery ticket worth 100 million yuan and secretly cashed it in, because in our previous life, the day after she won, she died in a car crash, and I was violated and killed. Yet soon after, Dad remarried and threw a wedding of the century. Not long after, the apocalypse arrived. 3 months of torrential rain flooded everything up to the 6th floor. My father moved into a hillside mansion with his new wife and started cruising on a $1 million yacht. That's when I realized the 10-year-old boy she brought along was actually my father's biological son. They had been living in the same residential complex as my grandparents, right across the hallway from them. Dad often stayed over at my grandparents' place, not to visit the elderly, but to spend time with his mistress and their child. I became their family's maid after the apocalypse. Sold over a pair of shoes during the bitter cold that followed the torrential rain. After being sold, I was tortured relentlessly for 3 months in a pitch-black house, eventually dying with deep resentment. My hands trembled slightly as I used the key to unlock the door. Those desperate memories replayed in my mind over and over, blurring the line between reality and dreams. Just moments ago, I was reborn, returning to the day before my mother's death. Today is Sunday, the day of the lottery draw. My mother will win 100 million, only to die in a car accident on her way to work tomorrow. And my father will use her winning ticket to marry his mistress, living recklessly and extravagantly through the apocalypse. The door finally opened, and the moment I stepped into the room, I saw the person who cherished me like a precious gem watering plants on the balcony. I took a deep breath to hold back the urge to cry, telling myself I couldn't show any sign of strangeness, couldn't let her notice anything different about me, and definitely couldn't tell her about my rebirth, after all. No one would believe such a surreal experience without living through it themselves. Even if she loves me deeply, she'd just think I've lost my mind. I must make her see Vigo with that woman with her own eyes, let her fall into complete despair before revealing the truth. Only then will she become an asset in my revenge, not a liability. I rubbed my face to make my expression more natural, then called out, "Mom, 5. My mom turned around from the balcony, looked surprised to see me, put down the watering can, and walked over. "Valentina, why are you home now? Didn't you say you weren't coming back this week?" I gave a wry smile, pulled out a bag of dirty clothes from behind me, and said, "Ran out of clean clothes, came home to get some new ones." She shook her head, tapped my forehead affectionately, took the bag, and said, "You didn't have to make a special trip for this. Aren't you bothered by the hassle? I bought some incredibly delicious strawberries today and was just thinking of bringing them to you tomorrow. I can just take them back with me afterwards." Listening to her ramble, my eyes welled up and I immediately lowered my head. That's how it's always been. She's spoiled me unconditionally since childhood, never once making me wash a single piece of clothing except for my underwear. She always gave me the best material life and the most abundant love. While most of my classmates were eager to fly the nest for college, I didn't hesitate to choose a university within the province. It was only a 2-hour journey from home, so I could go back any time. Yet, in the bitter apocalypse, someone like me ended up as a servant for a scumbag's family, cooking, cleaning, and constantly enduring their abuse and insults, suppressing the bitterness and hatred inside. I opened the fridge as usual and casually asked, "Mom, these strawberries are huge. Where did you get them?" "I bought them yesterday. Your Aunt Mia finally got her divorce, and to celebrate being single again, she dragged me out shopping all day." "Oh, I remember, Aunt Mia's husband was seeing someone else." "Right. See, men really can't be trusted. I wonder if Dad would ever cheat like Aunt Mia's husband did." I said that on purpose to see how my mom would react. Sure enough, she shot me a glare and retorted, "What nonsense are you talking? Your father is nothing like that. He pursued me for 3 whole years before I said yes. He's either at work or at home every day, occasionally visiting your grandparents. When would he even have the chance to cheat?" "All right, now hurry up and take off those clothes. I'll wash them together." I pressed my lips together and turned toward the bedroom. I knew my mom was a bit of a romantic, but I never imagined she'd be completely oblivious to Vigo's decade-long affair. Hard to tell if he was just that good at hiding it, or if my mom was simply too naive. I paused my steps toward the bedroom, saw my mom still busy on the balcony, and turned to head into her room instead. I need to find the lottery ticket first before making any other plans. I searched the master bedroom but couldn't find anything. After thinking for a moment, I figured it's probably in her bag. I turned and headed to my own bedroom, then called out to the other room, "Mom, where's that winter jacket I bought for the new year? I can't seem to find it anywhere." "How could you not find it? Isn't it right there in your closet?" Hearing this, my mom came into my room. I seized the chance to slip out under the guise of using the bathroom. After scanning the living room, I spotted her bag hanging by the entrance. I hurried over and rummaged through it. Sure enough, the lottery ticket was inside. Clutching it in my hand, I finally felt at ease, reassured by the crisp texture of the paper. My mom never had the habit of buying lottery tickets. For some unknown reason, she bought one this time, and it ended up costing her everything. I won't let this happen again in my life. That night, I stared at my phone waiting for the lottery draw. 05, 08, 12, 11. I went through the numbers one by one until the last digit, and every single one matched perfectly. I closed my eyes and let out a deep sigh. The surreal feeling that had weighed on me since my rebirth earlier today completely vanished. Staring at the immense wealth in my hands, I knew my mother and I would never relive the hardships of our past life. I waited until the clock struck midnight, then rushed out of my room and banged loudly on the master bedroom door. "Mom, wake up. It's an emergency. Grandpa's had another episode. Dad wants you to go to their place right now." My mom came out of the bedroom in her pajamas, her hair all disheveled, with sleep still lingering in her eyes. "Valentina, what did you say? What happened to your grandpa?" "Dad called and said Grandpa fell in the bathroom when he went to the toilet at night. He's unconscious. Dad needs you to get over there immediately." I got dressed, ran to the door, grabbed the down jacket from the hanger, and handed it to my mom, urging her, "Mom, hurry up. Let's not risk something serious actually happening." My mom murmured an acknowledgement without suspicion. only realizing something was off after we'd driven out of the neighborhood when she turned to ask me, "Valentina, why did your dad call you instead of me?" I brushed it off. "No idea, Dad didn't say. Probably dialed the wrong number in a panic." My mom sighed in exasperation. "Honestly, good thing you're home today. If you hadn't come back, this would have just been a bother." By the way, did he mention which hospital? The ambulance should have gotten there before us, right? I hadn't actually thought of that, so I kept up the lie. "Probably not that serious. Dad's just so used to relying on you. Mom must have called you out of habit." My story was full of holes, but Mom never doubted me because she trusted me completely. She even gave me a playful scolding look at my last remark. With a hint of sweetness on her face, it broke my heart to see that. Raised by her parents in a sheltered environment, Mom never imagined such a vicious family existed, clinging to her like barnacles, just to suck her dry. Over the years, she nearly drained the inheritance from my grandfather. If we hadn't lived with that family during the apocalypse, I'd never have known she'd been supporting my grandparents' side all along. We soon arrived at my grandparents' neighborhood. At the door of Unit 801, my mom wanted to knock, but I stopped her. "Mom, wait. Let me call Dad first." "Why call when we're right here? It's probably chaos inside. And the ambulance. It's been half an hour. Why is it taking so long?" My mom was complaining and still wanted to go knock, but I had already gotten through to Vigo on the phone. "Dad, where are you? Come to Grandma's house quickly. Grandpa fell off the balcony. It's really bad." The voice on the other end sounded hoarse and instinctively skeptical. "Valentina, what are you talking about? Calling me so late?" My mom looked at me in surprise, about to say something, but I quickly covered her mouth and shook my head at her. No matter how much my mom trusted me, she could tell something was wrong at this point. She pushed my hand away, her face visibly darkening. I didn't have time to explain, continuing to speak into the phone with a trembling voice. "Grandma just called me saying she couldn't reach you. Dad, where are you? You need to get to her place right now." I could hear a woman's voice from over there, along with the rustling sounds of someone getting out of bed. All right, I got it. I'm heading back right now." I hung up the phone and turned my gaze to my mother's face. Her eyes were filled with struggle and disbelief. "Valentina, is there something you're hiding from me?" I looked at the fine lines at the corners of her eyes and said with a heavy heart, "Mom, Dad has been cheating on you for a long time. Just like Aunt Mia's husband, and it's been happening right under your nose." "Valentina, what nonsense are you talking, you?" Before she could utter another word, the door to apartment 802 swung open. My dad, whose looks could rival a celebrity's, rushed out with messy hair and slippers on his feet. It was this face, even though he came from a rural background, that made him stand out among all the men pursuing my mother back then. Hearing the noise, my mother instinctively looked over and saw her husband emerging from across the way, followed by a woman who appeared much younger than her. "Zhenya." Vigo was stunned for a moment, then quickly and nervously tried to shield the woman behind him. He glanced at my mother, then at the woman behind him, his lips twitching as he struggled to find the right words. He stepped forward to grab my mother's arm, but she dodged his grasp. "Shoya, please listen to me. It's not what you think." I just lost my head for a moment. "Please forgive me, won't you?" My mother gripped my hand so tightly it hurt, but I didn't pull away. I wanted her to draw strength from me, to find the courage to face what was coming next. Her eyes were red-rimmed as she stared coldly at Vigo with a sneer. "Forgive you, for cheating on me and making a fool out of me. 5, you're disgusting, absolutely revolting." She slapped Vigo across the face with all her might, then looked at me as if completely drained. I knew she was in agony, but it wasn't enough. Unless she saw the final blow, she wouldn't give up on the man she'd loved for nearly 20 years. I looked at her and said, word by word, "Mom, don't you want to go in there and see? Maybe there's something you don't know." "Valentina, what are you talking about? This is all you're doing, isn't it? You wretched girl, you ungrateful little brat." Vigo immediately turned to glare at me, clearly having figured out what happened, and lunged forward to hit me. My mom has always doted on me. She even refused to have a second child when my grandparents pressured her for a boy. There was no way she'd stand by and watch Vigo hit me. In an instant, she slapped him across the face. "Who do you think you're hitting? I'm asking you, who are you trying to hit? You're the one keeping a mistress, and now you're blaming Valentina. If she hadn't exposed you, were you planning to lie to me forever?" She was like an enraged leopard, glaring at Vigo as if she wanted to tear him apart. "Shoya, it's all because of that wretched girl. If it weren't for her, we'd still be perfectly fine. As our child, not only did she fail to protect our marriage, but she's also driving a wedge between us now. Doesn't she deserve to be punished?" The affection Vigo once showed me was gone, replaced entirely by disdain and anger in his eyes when he looked at me. How familiar this feels. The day after my mother passed away in my previous life, He started looking at me with that very expression. Back then, I couldn't understand why my father, who had always doted on me, had changed so drastically, as if my very existence was some terrible sin. What? It wasn't until I saw that 10-year-old boy, the son preference I'd only ever seen online was actually happening to me. Is this the inherent flaw that comes with Vigo's rural upbringing? My mother seemed to flip a switch, shutting her elegant demeanor as she frantically clawed at his face. You're the one who did something shameless, and now you're pinning it on Valentina. You're absolutely disgusting. Go to hell, you scumbag. Just drop dead. My mom went all out hitting him, and his face was instantly scratched with several bloody streaks. The woman who had been standing at the door of room 802 wasn't having it when she saw my mom like that, and she came running over, shouting, "Stop it, you shrew. How dare you hit my husband?" staring at her delicate face. All the past grievances and fresh hatred from my previous life surged through my mind as I lunged at her. "Your husband, how dare you, a homewrecker, even utter those words." I pulled out the knife I brought from home and stabbed it fiercely into her chest. Before I could even land the stab, Vigo kicked me flying across the room, my stomach cramped up in agony, and the knife slipped from my hand onto the floor. "You little bitch. Daring to pull a knife. Do you have a death wish?" He glared at me with a twisted expression and tried to charge at me, but my mother grabbed his leg to stop him. My mother lunged at Vigo's leg like a rabid wolf, sinking her teeth deep as if unleashing a lifetime of pent-up rage onto that single patch of flesh. Not to be outdone, I scrambled to my feet the moment I caught my breath and charged toward room 802. "What are you doing? You can't go in there." "Absolutely not." The woman tried to block my path, but running a kilometer daily had its perks. While I was no match for a man like Vigo, handling a frail woman was well within my capabilities. I shoved her aside and burst into the living room of Unit 802. Spotting the coffee table, I flipped it over with one fierce motion, sending it crashing to the floor with a deafening shatter. I then dashed over to the display shelf in the living room, grabbed a vase from the floor, and hurled it across the room. My figurines, you little bitch, stop it right now." The woman lunged at me like a madwoman, and I immediately swung the broken vase in my hand straight at her. It hit her squarely on the head, the broken porcelain shards cutting her forehead as blood trickled down. Vigo had already shaken off my mom and rushed in. Seeing the scene, he immediately went to hold the woman. "Lola, are you okay, Vigo? My figurines, the ones our family of 3 made together, she destroyed all of them." She was weeping dramatically, but I had no patience for her theatrics, because I had already heard the cries of that little devil I knew all too well. I rushed toward the room and kicked the door open. Vigo, hurry, Rhett, our son." Lola screamed in panic when she saw me dashing toward her son's room, but Vigo wasn't as fast as me. Seeing the boy, who bore a striking resemblance to Vigo, sitting terrified on the bed, I chuckled and rushed over. I yanked him off the bed and dragged him out of the room, ignoring his struggles. He was so terrified that he burst into tears, crying for his mom and dad over and over. My mother was also in the living room, staring blankly at the boy in my hands, frozen in place. I was just about to call out to her to look at the boy when she suddenly went limp and fainted. I hardened my heart and ignored her, instead unleashing a barrage of punches and kicks on the wailing bastard in my hands. By the time Vigo arrived, I had already slapped him several times and kicked him hard in the chest. As Vigo stepped forward, there was no way he'd stand by and watch me lay a hand on his precious son. He yanked me by the hair, shoving me aside, and landed a powerful slap across my face. That slap was nothing like anything I could have mustered. My face swelled up instantly, and my head was left ringing, but I didn't wait around for him to hit me again. I took off running. I rushed over to my mom, pressing on her philtrum and calling out to her, "Mom, wake up, Vigo's trying to kill me. Look what he did to me. Just look at me." Whether it was my cries that roused her, my mother slowly came to. Valentina, the moment she opened her mouth, tears streamed down her face, choking her into silence. I know revealing the truth to her so abruptly was cruel, but I had to do it for our future. Before I could say another word, noises came from the doorway. My hypocritical grandparents and the uncle who killed my mother in our past life were all standing at the entrance. Those 2 old wretches saw their grandson bruised and battered, immediately howled in distress, and rushed over without a second thought for me or my mother. "I know this is the most critical moment right now," I said to my mom. "Mom, do you see? The whole family knew about Vigo's affair. They've been conspiring to deceive you. Red is already 10 years old. They've been lying to you for a full decade. Do you still want to stay with Vigo? The house these 2 old folks are living in, and even Eamon's wedding home, they were all funded with your money. We must get every penny back. There's no way we're letting them get away with it." The moment that wretched old woman heard my mom was contesting the property, her true colors showed. She shot me a venomous glare. "What the hell are you talking about, you brat? This house is for my grandson. You think you can just take it back? In your dreams. How dare you lay a hand on my grandson? I'll tear you apart today, you little wench, or I haven't lived this long for nothing." She could no longer keep up the pretense of having once doted on her granddaughter. Looking back now, Every time she came to my house, she never failed to complain to my mom and ask for money. No wonder she had to put on a friendly face. Now that everyone's dropped the pretense, she doesn't even bother pretending anymore. I simply ignore her. After all, her opinion doesn't matter in the slightest. What matters is my mom's opinion. Only hers truly counts. My mom snapped out of it, saw the blood on my face, and gasped in shock. She immediately stopped crying and turned a furious glare toward the family comforting Rhett. Vigo, how could you be so heartless? I stopped her from rushing over to hit Vigo and said, Mom, let's go home. My stomach hurts so much. Tomorrow, you should divorce him and make him leave with nothing. Seeing me in so much pain that I couldn't even straighten my back, my mom stopped arguing with Vigo and quickly agreed to take me to the hospital. She helped me walk toward the door. But just as we reached the entrance, Eamon blocked our way. You think you can just walk away like that, causing trouble in the middle of the night? Do you really think Vigo's family is an easy target? At his words, the old woman immediately started shouting, That's right, you hit my grandson and think you can just leave. You two little brats aren't stepping out of this door until I get an explanation. My mother let out a bitter laugh and turned to her, An explanation for you? Shouldn't you be the one giving me an explanation? Your son has been seeing someone else and even fathered a child out of wedlock. How dare you say such things? The old woman rolled her eyes, putting on an unreasonable attitude. Pa, this is all your fault. Back then, I told you to have a second child, but you refused. All you wanted was that worthless girl. Were you trying to cut off my son's lineage? You're the heartless one. She shot me a disgusted look and added, Everything was fine with our family. We were taking care of Lola and Rhett without bothering you. Yet you had to go and make trouble for yourself. My mother fumed, gritting her teeth as she said, Fine, fine. Now I see what kind of people you really are. I blame myself for being blind all these years. I never saw your true colors. Valentina, let's go. She pulled me along and tried to push Eamon's arm aside, but he stood there, tall and solid, completely unmoving. My grandfather, who rarely ever spoke, finally broke his silence. Oldest son, if I recall correctly, your daughter is turning 18 in less than a month, isn't she? His sudden remark, coming out of nowhere, gave me a sinking feeling in my gut. It never crossed my mind that my grandfather, who usually treated me like I was invisible, would actually remember my birthday. That's right. I skipped a grade in elementary school and was only 17 when I started college. The new year just began, and my birthday is in just over 10 days. But what's he getting at by bringing this up now? Before I could figure it out, he'd already given me the answer. That $3 million inheritance your father-in-law left for this girl. I recall you saying she could claim it once she comes of age, since you're her biological father. Wouldn't you be entitled to inherit her property if she were to die? My mother looked at him in horror and immediately pulled me behind her. What are you trying to do? But I already knew exactly what they were after. No wonder Vigo never divorced my mom. He was waiting for this all along. Before my grandfather passed away, he knew my mother wasn't good with managing finances. So he sold his small business and left her an inheritance of $5 million, aside from the fully paid house and car. But to protect against Vigo, he didn't give all the money to my mom. He gave her $2 million and left the remaining $3 million to me. However, I can only inherit that $3 million once I come of age. If I don't successfully inherit it, the money will be donated to the state. But for all his scheming, he never imagined that the family before him was more venomous than vipers. They actually plotted to kill me and inherit my estate. I can almost picture it. If my mother hadn't won the lottery in my past life, the day I inherited those $3 million would have been the day she and I met our end. 5, and then they would have lived it up with my money, without a care in the world. What a brilliant plan. He had it all figured out, but I wasn't about to let him have his way. I seized the moment, grabbed Eamon, and while she was still disoriented, shoved her out the door. Mom, run. Call the police. Now. My mother hesitated at the doorway, torn between struggling and fleeing, and her indecision was driving me crazy with worry. In that split second of her hesitation, Eamon flung me aside and charged toward her. Vigo caught me and immediately clamped a hand over my mouth. I struggled against his grip, but my strength was like an ant trying to shake a tree, utterly futile. My mother, desperate now, screamed for help and bolted for the emergency exit. But Eamon caught up to her before she'd even descended a few steps. Eamon locked his arm around her neck and dragged her toward the door. I watched her face turn purple from the choking, frantic and helpless as I struggled to break free. All I managed was to kick over a vase, powerless to do anything else. The sound of the shattering vase exploded through the air, and Eamon quickened his pace, yanking my mother harder. My mother fought back, and just as they reached the doorway, she grabbed hold of the doorframe. Seeing this, Eamon slammed his fist into my mother's hand, with several sickening thuds. I swear I could hear the sound of her bones cracking. I finally broke down in tears, hating myself for being so reckless today. There must have been a simpler way, right, to make my mother abandon her kindness and see the darkness in people's hearts. I ended up putting her through so much pain. I was so overwhelmed with guilt that I wished I were dead. Just as my mother could no longer bear the pain in her hand and finally let go, a crisp ringtone suddenly echoed through the hallway. It was my mother's phone. My mother seemed to see a glimmer of hope, struggling to reach for her bag that had fallen in the hallway, but she had no strength left. Seeing this, the old man sneered at my mother and went out to pick up the bag. He held up the phone to show Vigo, and I caught a glimpse of Aunt Mia's name on the screen. My heart leaped with hope, and I immediately sank my teeth into Vigo's hand that was covering my mouth. He yelped in pain and loosened his grip for a split second. Seizing the opportunity, I broke free and snatched the phone from the old man's hand, frantically swiping to answer the call. Mia's voice came through. "Hello, Yaya. Are you asleep?" I wanted to cry out for help, but before I could utter a word, Vigo clamped his hand over my mouth again. The old woman handed him a rag, which he shoved into my mouth. I gagged on the cloth, unable to make a sound. I glanced around the room and saw that the clock in the living room showed nearly 1:30 in the morning. In despair, I closed my eyes. My mother, seeing me like this, wept silently, unable to make a sound. She could only watch me with a heart full of pain. Seeing that we could no longer speak, Vigo had the old man answer the phone. "Mia, is there something urgent that you're calling Xiaoya so late at night?" His voice was steady, giving away no hint of anything unusual. Aunt Mia didn't suspect a thing. She even smiled. "Hey Vigo, so how's the dress Yaya bought today? Does she need to exchange it tomorrow? I'll make time to go with her if needed." Vigo glanced at me, then at my mom, and said, "The dress is perfect. No need to exchange it. Besides, my mom's fallen ill again, so she probably won't have time these next few days." "Oh, I see. All right, got it." After saying that, he hung up the phone, threw it on the floor, and started dragging me into the room. Bang, 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 bang. "Someone's at the door." Bullshit. The Vigo family exchanged glances and quickly pulled both me and my mother into the room together. But my mother seemed to see a glimmer of hope. She kicked over the dining table, sending cups and dishes crashing to the floor. While the pounding on the door grew even louder, Vigo had no choice but to respond verbally. There was no answer from outside. Vigo and the old woman worked together to shove me behind the sofa. The old woman and the other woman pinned me down, leaving me temporarily immobilized. While my mother was dragged into the room by the old man and Eamon, Vigo pulled his hands away and went to open the door. He peeked through the peephole first, and whatever he saw made him visibly relax with relief. He opened the door, and I heard a strange man's voice. "What's going on with your household? It's the middle of the night. Don't you know people are trying to sleep?" A wave of disappointment washed over me. It was the neighbor from downstairs. With every ounce of strength, I turned my neck and saw that the clock in the living room was almost 1:45. My heart filled with anxiety, ignoring the old woman's body pressing down on my chest. I lifted my head and knocked it against the floor. "What was that noise?" the neighbor downstairs asked. Well, just a bit of a marital spat. Got a little loud. Sorry about that." The neighbor tried to peek inside, but Vigo blocked his view. Being shorter than Vigo, he couldn't see a thing. He muttered under his breath, then warned, "Keep it down, will you? You're scaring our kids. We'll call the cops if this keeps up." All right. Sorry. The door slammed shut. I couldn't bear the thought of missing this chance to cry for help. But the old woman had my head pinned down. I couldn't move an inch. I glared at her furiously. Hearing the door close, she immediately swung a heavy slap straight at me. My forehead was cut open by the broken glass on the floor, and after she slapped me, blood instantly smeared across my entire face, making me look ghastly and terrifying. "You little brat, how dare you move? I won't rest until I've beaten you to death today." She slapped me several more times, leaving me dizzy and ears ringing, and only stopped when Vigo spoke up. "Enough, just endure it for a few more days. It's not too late to kill her after she turns 18. She still needs to sign the inheritance papers." "Vigo, could something go wrong?" The woman released her grip on my leg and threw herself at Vigo, cooing softly. "5, no way, we still have her mother. If she tries anything funny, her mom will pay the price." The moment he finished speaking, the door slammed again. "Damn it, when will this end?" Vigo cursed under his breath, walked over to open the door, and my leg was pinned down by that woman again. But this time, before he could even speak to the person outside, a voice I knew all too well rang out. "Valentina, Yaya." That's Aunt Mia's voice. Hearing her voice, I instantly felt relieved. All those videos I took and emails I sent were worth it. I'm just glad nothing went wrong. Vigo was completely stunned when he saw her, and the sight of the police behind her left him utterly bewildered. "Mia, what's the meaning of this? Why are you bringing the police here in the middle of the night?" "Vigo, you scumbag. If it weren't for Valentina's regular emails, I'd never have known what a wolf in sheep's clothing you are. Where are the mother and daughter? Hand them over now." Aunt Mia pointed at Vigo's nose and cursed at him. The old woman and the mistress on top of me froze when they heard the police arriving. pressing down on me without daring to make a sound. Mia, what on earth are you talking about? Vigo turned to the police and argued, officers, don't be fooled by this crazy woman. My wife and kids are asleep. What do you mean by hand them over? That's a load of bullshit. Yaya and I have been friends since we were in diapers. How could I not know if she bought a place here? And Yaya didn't buy any dress today at all. After yelling at him, Mia turned to the police officers. Officers. It's him. Joya and her daughter must be here. You have to find them. 2 police officers arrived. After showing their badges, they looked at Vigo. We received a report alleging murder. We need you to cooperate. No, officers, this is slander. Our family is the model household in this community. How could we possibly be involved in murder? I listened to their conversation, desperately trying to make some noise. But the 2 people on top of me pinned me down completely. I didn't know how to get their attention. I used all my strength to throw the 2 people off me, but it was all in vain, until, beep, I farted. The 2 officers exchanged a glance before turning to Vigo. Aren't you going to invite us in? Officers, my wife and child are asleep. You'll scare them if you come in now. Screw you, Vigo. If I don't see them today, I'll tear this damn house apart. Aunt Mia wasn't about to reason with him. She shoved past him, burst inside, and let out a gasp at the sight of the wrecked room. Officer, come quick. There's blood on the floor. The mother and child must have been harmed. You need to see this. Hearing the commotion, the officer dropped everything and rushed inside. Just then, I mustered all my strength and pushed again, with a soft grunt, as Aunt Mia finally reached the sofa. Ah, murder. She rushed over, pushed the 2 people off me, and held my bloodied face while sobbing uncontrollably. I felt a wave of relief when I saw her figure. Aunt Mia moved swiftly, truly a force to be reckoned with. I quickly stood up and had the police rescue my mom, while Eamon and his son were dragged out of the wardrobe. Everyone was taken to the police station. After giving our statements together, the police said my mother could press charges against them for domestic violence in this situation. But whether they'd actually get convicted would depend on the severity of my and her injuries. I know that. Based on how my mother and I look right now, it seems serious. After all, there was a lot of blood, but it hasn't reached the threshold for minor injury. Plus, since these people are my blood relatives, it would still be classified as domestic violence. But my goal isn't to send them to prison. Honestly, if they did end up behind bars, that would be a blessing for them in our past life. They caused my mother's death and sold me off. How could I let them off so easily by allowing them to enjoy the comforts of prison? So I tearfully told the police officer, my father, uncle, and grandfather, they were trying to kill me. My grandfather left me millions in inheritance, and they're trying to kill me and my mother to take it all. You have to stand up for us. What nonsense are you spouting, you brat? If your mother hadn't come here causing trouble tonight, why would I have hit you? Look at your brother. You beat him black and blue too? Vigo quickly defended himself to the police, but I couldn't care less what he says. I just need to buy myself a month. As long as they don't dare to come after me or my mother during that time, they'll never get another chance. I ignored him and continued speaking to the police. Officer, you need to understand, my mother and I would never take our own lives. If anything happens to us in the future, it will be because of them. With all the money I have, and my father having an illegitimate child, he'd clearly want us dead so he can pass everything to his son. What? Are you talking nonsense? Vigo was absolutely furious with me and even tried to hit me, but with the police right there, he didn't dare actually lay a hand on me. In the end, the whole conflict was resolved as a domestic dispute. But I made everything crystal clear to the police and even handed over the voice recorder I'd kept in my pocket at 802. That really put the fear of God into Vigo's family. Aunt Mia drove my mom and me away from there. Neither my mom nor I wanted to go back to that house. We went to the hospital first to get her hand checked out, for if her fingers were broken. That just added fuel to my hatred for Vigo's family. Aunt Mia got us settled in a hotel, but my mom urged her to leave so she wouldn't be late for work. After she left, my mother held me and wept bitterly before finally falling asleep. Looking at her hands clutching the white cloth, I knew today's events had hit her hard. She'd never experienced anything like this. While I had already cried all my tears and endured all the heartbreak in my past life, when she woke up in the afternoon, she looked at me and asked, Valentina, when did you find out about your father's affair? I sat down beside her and told her about my reincarnation. At first, she didn't believe me and thought I'd lost my mind, but then I showed her the lottery ticket and the winning numbers from last night. Her jaw dropped in astonishment, and she instantly forgot all about her sorrow. Then again, who could possibly stay sad when faced with 100 million? Mom, who else knew about you buying this lottery ticket so far? I asked her seriously. She thought for a moment and said, last Saturday. Your Aunt Mia and I went shopping. She got excited and insisted on dragging me along to buy it. Did you ever tell me about it? I asked, staring straight at her. She froze, her lips trembling slightly as she looked at me, unable to form a response. 5. Seeing that she finally believed what I said, I couldn't hold back my tears any longer. Mom, this lottery ticket is what got you killed in our past life. The day after you told Vico about it, he had Eamon run you over with a truck. Then he married that homewrecker from last night. Do you believe me now? He even sold me to a gang of murderers and thieves. They tortured me for 3 months straight before I finally died. Valentina, sweetheart, don't cry, don't cry. I believe you, baby, I do. I can't believe Vico's family would do this to you. How could they be so cruel? How? My mother held me tight, sobbing uncontrollably, for what she went through, and for what I endured, after calming down. I told her that in a month's time, there would be a 3-month-long global rainfall. Once the rain stops, an extreme cold snap will follow, marking the true end of the world. My mother was completely stunned, but this time she didn't doubt me. Instead, she immediately believed what I said. Valentina, did you do all this last night to prepare for this apocalypse? Yes, Mom, we need to get ready, face the coming doom, and avenge what happened to us in our past life, all right. Mom wasn't around back then. Just tell me what we need to do now, and I'll make it happen. Hearing my mom say that was a huge relief. I'm still a few days shy of 18, and it would have been nearly impossible to secure an apocalypse-ready shelter and supplies under my name, and that lottery ticket, I can't even claim it myself. You have to be 18 or older to collect. My mom looked at me and said, Valentina, you're the only one who can claim this ticket, if I do it. It becomes marital property. If anything happens, they'd end up benefiting from it. But we still need money to stock up on supplies, don't we? I know Mom doesn't have much money left. The inheritance Grandpa left her has been nearly depleted over the past decade. She bought apartments for those 2 wretched old folks, got one for my good-for-nothing uncle, and raised me all these years. Don't worry. Didn't you say our current place is going to flood? That house was bought by your grandpa for me. It's under my name. I'll sell it, and we'll use the money to buy a flood-safe home first. Then in just over 10 days, once you turn 18, you can withdraw the inheritance your grandpa left you. We'll use that money to stockpile supplies. As for this lottery ticket, cash it out when the time comes and convert everything into gold to store away. Seeing how thoroughly my mother had everything under control put my mind at ease. As long as we stand united, we'll make it through the apocalypse safely. My mom sold our house at half price and it was gone in less than 3 days. The next step is to find a new place. My mother considered buying a hillside villa, but I immediately vetoed the idea. Hillside villas are prime targets for looting during an apocalypse. Vico's family lived in one and got cleaned out because they couldn't afford heavy weaponry. In the end, my mother and I settled on a new 33-story residential complex with single-floor, single-unit design, which currently has a very low occupancy rate. This setup minimizes our contact with others and ensures our personal safety. We purchased both the 31st and 32nd floors. If flooding submerges the lower levels, the elevators would become unusable, making access a major hassle. Over the course of a month, we spent heavily to rush the renovations, installing radiant floor heating, triple reinforced vault-like alloy doors, and stockpiling enough supplies and self-defense weapons to fill the entire unit. But it was Aunt Mia who helped us get the self-defense weapons and the fuel for the generator. My mom is a piano teacher, and I'm just a student. We had no way to get these things ourselves, so we had to ask Aunt Mia for help. When she first heard what we were doing, she almost dragged my mom and me to a mental hospital. It wasn't until I showed her all the evidence that she finally believed us, and then she joined our cause. So now the 31st floor has become another storage space for our supplies. Once both the 32nd and 31st floors were fully stocked, we removed the door and sealed the entrance with bricks and cement. From the outside, you'd never know there was ever a door there. After a month of hard work, we've all become capable superwomen who can handle anything. Something like building a wall is just a piece of cake. On the 3rd day of the rain, my mom and I were already settled on the 33rd floor. Aunt Mia and her son still had some things to take care of and hadn't come over yet. Throughout the month, Vigo tried to contact my mom. After the house was sold, he started bombarding us with endless calls, but we never answered any of them. My mom and I were even followed at one point, but we stayed alert. As soon as we noticed someone tailing us, we drove straight to the police station, explained the whole situation, and repeatedly emphasized that Vigo's family was trying to kill us. Since we had the previous recordings as evidence, they didn't dare to actually do anything. After the rain had been falling for 3 months, I took Vigo out of the blacklist following a hot pot dinner with my mom, Aunt Mia, and her son, my dear dad. Has it crossed your mind to miss your daughter after these 4 months, Valentina, you unfilial daughter? Where have you taken your mother? Vigo's irritated voice came through from the other end, and it was oddly satisfying to hear. I looked at his no longer handsome face and couldn't help but smirk with satisfaction. Well, you who once cared so much about appearances and built your success on them, look at how gaunt and skeletal you've become. Ha ha, who would have ever imagined this? Mom, come quick and look. The man who once had the means to keep a mistress is now in such a pitiful state. I handed my phone to my mom with a grin, but to my surprise, her eyes welled up the moment she took it. My heart sank. Could it be that she still has feelings for him? Mom, you. Before I could even finish, tears were streaming down her face. Vigo, what happened to you? Darling, where are you? I miss you so much. I know I was wrong. Please forgive me. I truly regret everything, my love. Vigo was crying so genuinely on the other end that Aunt Mia, her precious son, and I just exchanged awkward glances. We all knew my mom was a hopeless romantic, but surely she wouldn't be foolish enough to fall for that scumbag again after seeing him like this, right, Vigo? I miss you too, I yelled and rushed over to glare at her. Mom, what are you saying? He's a scumbag. Have you forgotten he had an affair, a secret child? And even wanted to sacrifice us. Have you lost your mind living comfortably? My mother looked at me with tearful eyes and said, Valentina, he's your father, the man I've loved for 20 years. How could I just let him go so easily? Can't you try to understand how I feel? Mia, you're unbelievable. You're driving me absolutely crazy. Aunt Mia was so furious with my mom that she slammed the door and stormed straight into the bedroom. Ethan blinked his innocent eyes, glanced at me and then at my mom, scratched his head, and finally retreated to his room too. Meanwhile, Vigo had no idea that everyone here was nearly driven mad by that phone call, and he just kept on crying, saying, Darling, please don't leave me. These past few months I've been so heartsick I can't eat or sleep properly. Just look what missing you has done to me. My parents forced me to be with that woman. I only went along with it because I couldn't stand up to them. I've been filled with regret ever since that day. I don't know what came over me to act so impulsively. Please forgive me. All right, I forgive you. These are hard times with the famine. You must take care of yourself, my mother said, crouching on the ground with her hand over her mouth as she wept. Darling, I miss you so much. You have no idea. I haven't eaten in 3 days. I've been surviving on government relief supplies. And it's never enough, Vigo said pitifully. Vigo, see, can you find a way to come here? We have plenty of food. Would you like to come live with me? 5. Mom, what are you talking about? I snatched the phone and screamed at my mother with heart-wrenching fury. I can't believe my mom has lost her mind. She actually wants Vigo to come over. Valentina, that's your father, your real dad. There shouldn't be lasting grudges between a parent and child. Please forgive him. Okay, no. I'll never forgive him. If you let him move in, I'll kill myself. I waved my phone around frantically, grabbed a bowl from the table and smashed it on the floor, then picked up a shard and pressed it against my wrist. Do you want him to live, or do you want me dead? I glared at my mother as if unleashing a lifetime's worth of pent-up rage. My mother was terrified. She dropped to her knees in a daze, tears streaming down her face as she pleaded, Valentina, it's my fault. I shouldn't have let him come. I'll never do it again. Please don't scare me like this. Honey, Vigo was shouting frantically on the other end. My mother hesitantly took the phone from my hand and sobbed. I'm sorry, Vigo. I can't lose my daughter. How about this? Come over now, and I'll give you some bags of rice to get you through this period. Once I've convinced Valentina, you can come back, all right. After pouring their hearts out to each other, they finally ended the call. I looked at my dead phone, took a deep breath, went downstairs, and carried 2 bags of rice back up. These 2 bags of rice are the final severance of the bond between him and me as father and daughter. From now on, never mention his name in this house again. All right, Valentina, whatever you say, I'll do as you wish. My mother watched my expression, looking like a pitiful, bullied victim. It was 10:43 p.m. when Vigo paddled over in his kayak. I was holding a gun, while Ethan and Aunt Mia had crossbows. We were waiting for them on the 7th floor. The entire complex is now flooded below the 5th floor. The 7th floor has effectively become the 2nd floor, and aside from our family, the building is completely empty, with no supermarkets anywhere nearby. Everyone who could leave had moved out by the 2nd month of the rain. So, in the emergency stairwell on the 7th floor, we took 2 spare metal doors and welded them shut right there. When Vigo showed up, I saw he'd actually brought Eamon and that damn old man along. They came by kayak, and it clearly wasn't an easy trip from their neighborhood. All 3 of them looked completely exhausted. I slid open the bag of rice and said to Vigo's family, the father and his 2 sons, you've got 2 options. First, slap each other 30 times, and I'll give you both bags of rice, intact. Second, if you refuse, I'll pour all this rice out through the door crack, and you can scramble for whatever you can grab. Which one will you choose, you ungrateful wretch? You vicious little snake, how dare you treat your elders this way? You're part of Vigo's family. Is this how your mother raised you? The old man was so furious he started yelling at me. I just laughed heartily at his disheveled, beggar-like appearance. Ha, well said. Absolutely right. I almost laughed myself into stitches at his words, bending over to rub my stomach before finally looking up at them after the fit of laughter subsided. So you do remember I'm part of your Vigo's family? Then you should know exactly where I inherited this viper's heart from. After all, this is your family tradition. Other families don't possess such admirable qualities. I'm just carrying on our ancestors' legacy, and you dare call me unfilial? Fine, since you clearly don't want these 2 bags of rice, I'll just scatter them for fun. We've got too many at home anyway, they're just taking up space. I smiled at the 3 people across from me, gradually lifting one end of the bag. And the rice began to pour out with a rustling sound. Vigo glared at me, gritting his teeth. Where's your mom? Let your mom come talk to me. Huh, my mom. She's at home crying right now. What? You want her to come down and open the door for you? Not until I'm dead. I smiled at his face, which bore a striking resemblance to mine, my lips curling up even more. With an air of indifference, I stabbed the rice bag with scissors, spilling even more grains. Vigo glared at me bitterly, grinding his teeth as he said, "Stop pouring. We'll go with the first option." "All right. Heh, smart move. I'll give you that." I stopped what I was doing and sat down on the ground behind the iron gate, watching them. The old man was reluctant at first, but after Vigo whispered something to him, he shot me a sinister glare and instantly threw a punch at Vigo's face. I knew it. Probably something about how there'd be plenty of time for payback later. Blah blah blah. They'd need to be damn lucky to come back again. Watching their feeble state, I sneered inwardly. Seems you really don't want these 2 sacks of rice after all. With that, I kicked over the rice sacks at my feet onto the ground. Valentina, don't you dare push your luck. Eamon, who had been silent all along, shot me a venomous glare, as if his eyes could turn into daggers to pierce through my heart. I raised an eyebrow, unfazed, and continued to smile calmly while staring right back at him, combined with the rustling sound of rice at my feet. The whole scene was oddly amusing. Vigo witnessed the scene but said nothing, only telling the old man, "Dad, hit him harder. That's Rhett's only hope to survive." Hearing that, I couldn't help but roll my eyes. Seriously, still thinking about his son at a time like this. What touching fatherly love. Oh wow. The echo of slaps kept reverberating in the hallway. Checking the time, I figured it was about right. I shoved the 2 bags of rice through the gap in the iron door. Then Aunt Mia and I opened the heavy sealed door at the back and headed upstairs. The slapping sounds from below had faded. I checked my watch again. 2 minutes until 11:33. We reached the 10th floor where my mom was already waiting, crossbow in hand, greeting us with a smile. That ridiculous performance was worth it. I nearly gagged reciting those cringeworthy lines. My mom was lying on the 10th floor balcony with a crossbow, grumbling when she saw us return. Aunt Mia chuckled and went over to hug her. If it weren't for this, they wouldn't have come so easily. My poor baby, you've been wronged. Ugh. That's so cringe. My mom pushed Aunt Mia away with such a disgusted look that Ethan and I were just speechless. If these 2 only listened to the words but not the meaning, people would probably think they're just a couple of kids. My phone rang. It was the alarm I set. The time was up. Ethan unloaded the large backpack he was carrying, pulling out specially customized extra thick down jackets and handing one to each person. I looked at my fingers and touched my ears, reminiscing about this very moment in my past life. Back then, I was still doing laundry when suddenly the water in the basin froze in the blink of an eye. 4 of my fingers froze right off, and my ear, already weakened from years of that old woman's twisting, snapped off at the wound. Feeling the temperature beginning to drop, I said to my mother holding the crossbow, "Mom, it's time. Let's do this." "All right, sweetie. Watch Mom get your revenge." My mother steadied the crossbow, put on her night vision goggles, and fired an arrow at the kayak that hadn't yet gotten far. Whoosh! The arrow sliced through the air, crossing the distance in an instant before striking the stern of the kayak. 5. I watched helplessly as the 3 people aboard panicked at the kayak's deflation before plunging into the water. Before they could even struggle, the ice surface sealed over them at an unnerving speed, trapping them beneath the water. All 3 were frozen in desperate, pleading postures, a chilling yet grimly satisfying sight. Bundled up like bears, we watched them in silence until not a single crack remained on the icy surface. Under the worried gazes of our 2 mothers, Ethan and I strapped on our crossbows and guns, laced up our ice skates, and raced toward that neighborhood. Not a soul was in sight along the way. This sudden, unexpected deep freeze had surely buried countless bodies beneath the snow. I wonder if anyone in power ever read the letter I sent to the mayor's office months ago, or if it managed to save even a few lives. Ethan and I braved the biting cold, arriving at room 802 2 hours later. The place was dead silent. Clutching my gun like a video game soldier, I crept into the room with caution. In the living room, I first spotted Lola, her body covered in mottled bruises. She was breathing weakly, her lifeless eyes wide with terror as she stared at me. Her body was riddled with gaping wounds, like a slaughtered lamb, already reduced to someone else's meal. I stared at her with scorn, my mind flooded with memories of her beating me. Once a noble lady waited on by a servant like me in her past life, she's now become winter provisions for others. How poetic is the wheel of fate. I stopped looking at her and walked into the room to present the gift I had brought today. In the master bedroom, the old woman huddled on the bed, trembling as she clutched the adored child to her chest. When she saw me holding the gun, she let out a sharp cry. "You worthless brat, what are you doing here? And with a gun, are you trying to kill me?" She said she wanted to get out of bed, but the chilly air made her hesitate to leave the warmth. I found it amusing to watch her. How could a woman like her so casually utter the term worthless burden? Doesn't she realize that by saying those words, she's insulting herself as well? I shook my head, pulled out a pair of ice skates that would fit a 10-year-old, and thrust them toward the little boy in her arms, saying, "These are the ice skates you were so obsessed with in your past life, my dear brother. Back then, you cried and threw a fit, begging Vigo to sell me off, all just so you could skate on the ice with a pair like this. Now you have the skates. Go enjoy yourself on the ice, won't you, my dear brother?" I hauled Red out of bed, slipped the shoes I'd bought just for him onto his feet, and let Ethan tie up the screaming woman behind us without interference. That Ethan, even though he's a year younger than me, he's damn competent when it comes to getting things done. I dragged the unconscious Red onto the ice, glanced at his new, sharp-looking shoes, and nodded in satisfaction. "Listen, little brother, I gave you a pair of shoes in this lifetime, so you'd better not go selling me out later," I said to him in a fawning tone. No one responded, but I didn't mind. After all, that family would never get another chance to sell me off. When Ethan and I returned to the 33rd floor, both mothers were pacing anxiously in the living room. They looked us up and down just like they always did, and only relaxed when they saw we were still in one piece. Ethan and I accepted their care, sitting on a corner of the sofa, and exchanged a knowing smile. Story 2. My sister and I were twin spirit foxes, both sent to the Dragon Clan for political marriage. The Dragon Crown Prince took an instant liking to me, a 5-tailed spirit fox, while my sister was forced to wed the disfavored second prince. Later, I bore the Crown Prince a frail black dragon, whereas my sister gave birth to the most majestic golden dragon for the second prince. Thus, the second prince won the Dragon King's favor and became the heir to the Dragon Clan. The Crown Prince loathed me for ruining his future. Seizing the moment when I was off guard, he shattered my immortal bones with a single strike. "Were it not for your sorcery that bewitched me, the Dragon King's throne would rightfully be mine. You've tainted my noble lineage." When I opened my eyes again, I found myself back on the day I was sent to the Dragon Clan for our political marriage. My sister and I are twin spirit foxes born from the same litter. In ancient times, the Dragon Clan sent envoys to the fox tribe seeking marriage alliances to strengthen their next heir. As the most gifted spirit foxes, my sister and I were both sent to the Dragon Clan as brides. In the Grand Hall of the Dragon Clan, envoys presented a spirit pearl to awaken our celestial bones and reveal our true forms. My sister placed her hand on the pearl first. A blinding white light erupted from it, unveiling her true form as a 3-tailed spirit fox. The Dragonkin marveled at this spectacle, for even 3-tailed spirit foxes had become rare treasures since the 9-tailed ones vanished from the mortal realm. Prince Knight, the Dragon King's favored heir, immediately sought to take my elder sister as his principal consort upon witnessing this. But when my hand touched the spirit stone, iridescent light flooded the Dragon Palace as 5 magnificent tails unfurled behind me, leaving the entire court astir. Thus Knight abandoned my sister to wed me instead, while she was forcibly betrothed to the unfavored second prince, Eldar. Shortly after our wedding, I bore Knight a frail black dragon, while my sister, a 3-tailed spirit fox, unexpectedly gave Eldar a golden dragon, a rarity unseen for millennia. Overjoyed, the Dragon King favored Eldar even more, formally declaring him the heir to the Dragon Clan. Consumed by hatred, Knight seized the moment while I was still recovering and shattered my immortal bones with a single strike. Excruciating pain coursed through my body as I demanded why Knight could be so cruel. Knight glared at me coldly, his voice dripping with disdain. "Had you not bewitched me with your sorcery, I would have been the one to father the golden dragon heir with Vera. You've tainted my noble bloodline." As my consciousness faded, Knight lifted the black dragon hatchling I'd risked my life to deliver high above his head, then hurled it mercilessly to the ground. In an instant, the frail little dragon lay motionless on the ground, its body limp as wet clay, all signs of life extinguished. Bone-deep hatred forced twin trails of bloody tears from my eyes as I howled my vow to tear Knight limb from limb. When I opened my eyes again, I found myself transported back to the day of the political marriage. Father, I choose Vera to be my principal consort. The twilight bathed the entire Dragon Palace in golden light as my 5 tails unfurled openly before the assembled court. The hatred in Knight's gaze when he looked at me, contrasted with the fervor in his eyes when he turned to my sister, made me realize he too had been reborn. Knight believed that by choosing his sister, he could sire a noble golden dragon to become the next heir of the dragon lineage. Little did he know his maternal bloodline descended from the lowliest black serpents. Producing a dragon at all was the utmost effort I could make for him. The crowd gasped when Knight rejected the supremely gifted 5-tailed spirit fox for its inferior 3-tailed counterpart, even the ancient Dragon King furrowing his brow at the sight. "Knight, this concerns the future of our dragon kin. Do not treat it lightly." Though the Dragon King wished to favor Knight, the prince remained obstinate. Father, he said coldly, Vixen may be a five-tailed fox spirit, but that doesn't guarantee her offspring would be superior. I beg you to bless my union with Vera instead. As for Vixen, I dare say she'd make a perfect match for my younger brother. Seeing Knight's unyielding stance, the Dragon King slammed his scepter to the ground in frustration. With no choice but to concede, he stormed off without even tasting the celestial peaches, his sleeves billowing behind him. Vera had already been seething with envy upon seeing my five-tailed true form. When Knight unexpectedly chose her instead, her twisted expression melted into smug satisfaction. Your Highness honors me by accepting my humble three-tailed form. As for my sister, what a pity to waste such rare talent. Vera pressed herself against Knight, her voice dripping with smug satisfaction. Knight pulled Vera into his embrace, shooting me a look of utter disdain. Five tails mean nothing, just cheap fox tricks to beguile the masses. Only by bearing a noble dragon heir would one deserve to be my imperial consort. With that, Knight turned his mocking gaze upon the frail-looking Eldar, his eyes brimming with derision. Little brother, don't flatter yourself that marrying some five-tailed spirit fox will win the Dragon King's favor and make you heir to the draconic throne. The day she whelps that bastard dragon spawn will be your last. Having spoken, Knight wrapped an arm around Vera and strode away with her in tow. I raised my eyes to meet the impassive gaze of Eldar and ventured cautiously, Second Prince, though I am a five-tailed spirit fox, should I truly fail to bear you a noble dragon heir, the Crown Prince will undoubtedly become the Dragon Clan's successor and banish you from the palace. If you annul the betrothal with the Dragon King now, there might still be room for reconsideration. In my past life, I knew little about Eldar's affairs. Without fully understanding his character, I would never again rush to conceive a dragon heir with him as recklessly as before. I expected Eldar to give me the cold shoulder after Knight's provocation, but to my surprise, he suddenly burst into laughter upon hearing my words. I was born with frail health. If you failed to conceive a noble dragon heir within a month, it certainly wouldn't be your fault. Moreover, for an unfavored prince like me to gain the favor of a five-tailed fox spirit, I'd say I'm the one reaching above my station. With a faint curl of his pale lips, Eldar extended his slender fingers toward me, seeking to take my hand. That coquettish demeanor was utterly bewitching. Like a seductive fox spirit, I shyly averted my gaze, placing my hand over Eldar's. Feeling the warmth of his palm suddenly cooled by the jade's icy touch, today marked the beginning of our journey. Eldar, my sister, Knight and I to conceive a dragon heir. The spirit foxes have always been different from other clans. Nourished by rare herbs and abundant spiritual energy, they can give birth within just one moon cycle. Just as Eldar was about to take me to the Valley of Despair for immortal cultivation, Knight arrived with Vera, cutting us off. The Valley of Despair brims with immortal energy, nurturing countless spirit beasts since ancient times. It's our father's most treasured land, Eldar. Your mother was nothing but a lowly snake spirit. How dare your tainted bloodline set foot in such sacred grounds? Though Eldar had always avoided conflict, hearing Knight insult his mother triggered his transformation into a white dragon. Locking eyes with his foe, unflinching, Knight also shifted to his true form, clashing with Eldar in a fierce battle. The two sides fought fiercely for hundreds of rounds, with neither gaining the upper hand. At that moment, Vera suddenly gathered celestial energy in her palm and lunged at me. Vixen, you shall not take Hopeless Valley today. The Crown Prince promised that if I cultivate immortality here, I'll bear him a noble golden dragon and become the revered dragon matriarch of the palace. You were born with five tails, your natural gifts far surpassing mine, always overshadowing me, but this time, I swear I'll challenge you to the end. The moment she finished speaking, Vera's eyes turned blood-red as she lashed out with three massive tails, whipping them toward me with terrifying force. I wasn't about to play the fool either. In an instant, I channeled the power of five tails into a concentrated strike, slamming it straight into Vera's abdomen. Overwhelmed, Vera collapsed to the ground, coughing up a mouthful of fresh blood. Meanwhile, the previously arrogant Knight was sent crashing to the earth by Eldar's draconic tail, just as the outcome seemed decided. The Dragon King suddenly appeared, his scepter conjured a blinding white orb, which he hurled at Eldar's unprotected back with devastating force. The impact sent Eldar crashing to the ground, his already pale complexion now deathly white like a paper effigy, devoid of vitality. Father, seeing this, Knight crawled to the Dragon King's feet despite his wounds, pleading through tears, Father, that low-born Eldar dared strike your son and covet the veil of despair. I beg you to deliver justice. At Knight's words, the Dragon King's gaze toward Eldar grew increasingly contemptuous. Eldar, Knight is your own blood brother. To think you'd gravely injure your own flesh and blood over some celestial valley. This vile temperament truly mirrors that snake spirit mother of yours. Eldar knelt before the Dragon King with clenched teeth, his tone resolute yet measured. Father, if you despised my mother's lineage so, why force her into the Dragon Palace? Your actions condemned her to wither away after my birth. Of all people, you least deserve to scorn her memory." No sooner had Eldar spoken than the Dragon King raised his hand, gathering a devastating palm strike to unleash upon him. With a swift flick of my foxtail, I deflected the incoming palm strike. The Dragon King, seeing me openly challenge his authority, immediately gathered his magic power and lunged at me. Though I'm a five-tailed spirit fox with millennia of cultivation, the most formidable among my generation in the Fox clan, the Dragon King, after all, has ruled the Undersea Palace for thousands of years. His magical prowess far surpasses mine. With but a fraction of his power, he could shatter the celestial bones I've cultivated over 1,000 years, too. As the massive energy wave was about to strike me, Eldar instantly revealed his true form and swallowed the white light whole. The Dragon King's heart trembled at the sight. Though Eldar had always been frail since birth, none expected such hidden power, a realization that unsettled the monarch. Shielding Knight, the Dragon King glared at Eldar and hissed, "Eldar, would you dare raise your hand against your own father?" Eldar met the Dragon King's gaze fearlessly. "Father, I have no wish to raise my hand against you, but you must not harm my consort. The foxes and dragons are now bound by marriage. And Vixen is the Fox King's most cherished daughter. If you injure her to protect Knight, do you not fear the Fox clans declaring war upon our Dragon Kin?" Eldar's words doused the fury in the Dragon King's eyes. After millennia, the Dragon clans had lost their former glory. This alliance with the Foxes was meant to breed stronger descendants and restore their splendor. Should dragons and foxes go to war because of me, all their efforts would surely come to naught. With this thought, the Dragon King finally withdrew his magic power, casting an icy gaze upon Eldar and me. "Very well. Today, this sovereign shall overlook Vixen's transgression. However, since the Valley of Despair belongs to my domain, I hereby decree its bestowal upon the immortal cultivator Knight. As for you, you'd better prove your worth. Should you fail to bear a mighty dragon heir for our clan, I shall sever your sinews and banish you both from the Dragon Palace." With these words, the Dragon King slammed his scepter violently onto the ground, producing a dull thud before vanishing from sight. The Dragon King's intervention sent both Eldar and me flying beyond the barrier of Hopeless Valley. No sooner had the Dragon King left than Eldar collapsed in human form, his frail body swaying like a withered leaf in the wind. "Your Highness, with the second prince's spiritual energy fading so rapidly, why don't we sever his dragon tendons now to eliminate this threat once and for all?" Vera helped Knight to his feet, her gaze toward Eldar and me dripping with venom. The two figures burst through the barrier with terrifying force, their razor-sharp claws poised to tear Eldar and me to shreds. I swiftly coiled my foxtail and struck them across their faces before they could react. "Disgusting vermin, after seizing Hopeless Valley, you still dare come for our lives. Know your place." Knight and Vera were sent crashing back into the barrier, their already grievous wounds now compounded with fresh injuries. Watching Vera and Knight gnash their teeth in frustration filled me with immense satisfaction. "Don't get cocky too soon, Vixen. When Vera bears my golden dragon heir, I'll repay today's humiliation 1,000-fold upon you all." With those words, Knight dissolved into black mist and vanished with the severely wounded Vera before our eyes, having lost Hopeless Valley. I dragged Eldar, his spiritual energy nearly depleted, in search of a sanctuary for recovery. Just as I was at my wit's end, I sensed something massive stirring beneath Mount Bujo. Such concealed divine energy, this must be the place. "Second Prince, let us cultivate our immortal arts here." Eldar gazed at the desolate mountain devoid of any spiritual aura, involuntarily covering his mouth as violent coughs racked his body. "Vixen, it's all my fault you've fallen to this state. Don't worry, though I've lost most of my spiritual power, I can still safely return you to the Fox clan." Clearly, Eldar assumed I'd lost my prime cultivation grounds and gone mad with despair, now treating this godforsaken wasteland as some treasure trove, even pointing at that stagnant pool ahead, declaring his intent to meditate there. Witnessing this, I could only massage my temples and exhale in exasperation. "Your Highness, I speak true. This very spot marks where the fire and water gods toppled Mount Bujo. Its desolation stems from treasures beneath that devour spiritual energy. I sense it. That murky water conceals power surpassing even Mount Wangwu's might." At this point, fearing Eldar might doubt me, I channeled my immortal energy and struck the center of that stagnant pool. In an instant, the entire tranquil Mount Bujo began shaking violently. Thankfully, I swiftly wrapped my foxtail around the wounded Eldar, preventing him from being swallowed by the sudden fissures. Simultaneously, the previously unremarkable pool began emitting an eerie white glow, violently splitting open at its center. Seizing the moment, I plunged into the rift with Eldar in tow. We tumbled to the ground moments later, both Eldar and I staring in awe at the towering palace before us. A colossal stone tortoise coiled around the hall's pillar suddenly came alive, its obsidian eyes flashing with golden radiance at our intrusion. A cacophony of primordial echoes reverberated through the grand hall. "Death awaits those who trespass these forbidden grounds." An overwhelming pressure threatened to tear my body apart in that instant. Suddenly, a white serpent materialized behind Eldar, shielding us with its massive form. So you're a descendant of the great Baishi, the legendary serpent attendant of goddess Nuwa. The revelation stunned me, flooding my mind with memories of Vera bearing Eldar's dragon child in our past life. That day, bathed in golden light, a golden dragon soared from the side palace, compelling all dragonkind to prostrate in reverence. I was baffled then, knowing Vera's capabilities all too well. How could she, bonded to an ailing prince, give birth to a golden dragon unseen for millennia? Only then did I learn Eldar carried the bloodline of ancient divine beasts, destined to sire a dragon heir of extraordinary might. As the words faded, the divine tortoise, who moments ago sought to tear Eldar and me apart, transformed into a childlike form and knelt facing Eldar's direction. Noticing the confusion in Eldar's and my eyes, the divine turtle scratched its nearly bald head and began explaining slowly. Your mother was no serpent spirit, but Baishi, the direct disciple of goddess Nuwa and my revered master. During the great war between gods and demons millennia ago, she vanished from the three realms without a trace. Since then, I've guarded this mountain's sacred treasure in her stead. To think that after 10,000 years, my master would have descendants. Now that you're her heir, I shall entrust everything within this mountain to your care. As the stone turtle extended its hand toward Eldar, the tranquil cliffside trembled violently once more. A tremendous surge of spiritual energy began flowing ceaselessly into Eldar's body. Eldar's pallid complexion gradually regained its rosy hue, like a parched sponge greedily absorbing the immense divine energy. Only when the sacred turtle fully transformed into a stone statue and fell into slumber did Eldar finally open his phoenix-like eyes, awakening with an eerie crimson glow filling his gaze. But Eldar, already severely drained, suddenly found himself overwhelmed by this tremendous power, causing the celestial energy within him to surge uncontrollably. Eldar parted his thin lips slightly, his eyes burning with unmistakable desire as they met mine. Vixen, help me. As the words faded, the massive dragon's tail slowly coiled around my waist, seeking entanglement with me. After uncounted days, Eldar's scorching body temperature subsided significantly, and the celestial energy within began circulating in orderly patterns. Through immortal cultivation, I continuously absorbed the vast divine power from Eldar's body, until two new tails miraculously manifested. Noticing the astonishment in my eyes, Eldar pulled me tightly into his embrace and chuckled in that deep, velvety voice of his. Is my little vixen satisfied already? With my help, you'll surely manifest 9 tails. Let's breed the mightiest dragon heirs together, shall we? Though phrasing it as a question, Eldar only coiled around me tighter, as if terrified I might slip away. And so amidst our entanglement, through countless days and nights, I did indeed awaken my 9 tails. The month-long wait was over before I knew it. Gazing at my swollen belly, I couldn't help but feel uneasy. Eldar seemed to sense my anxiety. Holding my hand, he reassured me, Vixen, whether our child is strong or weak, I'll protect you both with my life. If my father and brother truly mean to hunt us down, I won't show them any mercy either. His words instantly dispelled my fears. Summoning all my strength, I gave birth to a dragon egg. Staring at the utterly ordinary-looking dragon egg, I couldn't help but feel uneasy. No need to worry. Since my mother is descended from ancient divine beasts, this dragon egg must be extraordinary. Hearing this, I nodded while cradling the dragon egg, just as I was channeling celestial energy into the egg to hasten its hatching. Disturbances arose beyond Mount Bujo. With a flick of his sleeve, Eldar instantly transported both me and the dragon egg outside the barrier. No sooner had we stepped beyond the barrier than we spotted Vera, Knight, and others storming toward us, cradling their dragon offspring. The black creature in Vera's arms wasn't truly a dragon, but rather a black flood dragon. I realized upon closer inspection. I stood dumbfounded. Knight's constitution proved far hardier than I'd assumed. Despite their grave injuries, they'd somehow managed to produce offspring within a single month. Though this black serpent hasn't yet ascended as a dragon, given another millennium of cultivation, it would surely soar into dragonhood. Before I could speak, Vera shot me a venomous glare and shrieked, It's your fault, His Highness, and I couldn't conceive a golden dragon. Had you not schemed to grievously wound him that day, I wouldn't have birthed this child still trapped in serpent form. Knight gnashed his teeth at us. Today, I shall slaughter you all to avenge my child. No sooner had the words left their mouths than they lunged at us in a flash. Yet before their fingers could graze my robes, Eldar sent them flying back with a thunderous force. Having cultivated by absorbing the dense spiritual energy of Hopeless Valley for a month, Knight and Vera's power had far surpassed their former selves. Yet they never anticipated Eldar's current strength would reach such terrifying heights. Seeing Knight and Vera still seething with resentment, they gathered their full cultivation power to charge toward Eldar and me. Knight condensed a luminous sphere in his palm, his voice thick with bitterness. Even in this second life, the heavens still deny me justice. The dragon throne belongs to me. You low-born wretch shall never steal what's rightfully mine again. As the words faded, Knight let out a furious roar and transformed into his true form, charging toward Eldar and me. With just a slight lift of his gaze, Eldar effortlessly dispersed the celestial energy, then casually flicked his wrist, sending both Knight and Vera crashing to the ground. Unable to withstand the overwhelming pressure, Knight and Vera coughed up blood once more. "If you still insist on harming my wife and child, don't blame me for abandoning Brotherhood. I'll tear you all to shreds." Knight and Vera finally realized their peril. Hastily retreating step by step, just then, a colossal dragon swooped in from afar, shielding Knight and Vera behind its massive form. "Let me see who dares lay a finger on my child." The Dragon King's glacial gaze locked onto Eldar and me, until spotting the lifeless dragon egg in my hands, his eyes turning arctic. "Audacious Eldar, did I not vow that if you and this fox spirit failed to bear a dragon heir for my kin within a month, this very day would mark your doom?" As the Dragon King's words faded, his scepter erupted in blinding radiance, divine energies coalescing before hurtling toward Eldar and me. Eldar reacted instantly, conjuring a barrier with a sweep of his hand to intercept the divine assault, yet in mere moments, the formidable shield shattered like glass, fracturing into fragments. Eldar's eyes burned crimson as he glared at the Dragon King before him, his voice trembling with resentment. "Father, am I not your child too, for 1,000 years? Your gaze has never strayed from Knight, your concern belongs to Knight alone, yet I've never harbored hatred toward you. I've yielded to you and Knight at every turn, but now, to protect that worthless Knight, you truly take my life, then let our bond as father and son be severed." With a thunderous draconic roar, Eldar transformed into his true form, soaring skyward. His pristine white scales began shimmering, each one gradually shifting into radiant gold. The Dragon King stared at the golden dragon before him, his eyes widening in disbelief. "Impossible, your mother was merely a lowly serpent spirit, how could her offspring be a golden dragon?" Yet Eldar couldn't be bothered to explain. He immediately channeled divine energy and struck toward the Dragon King. Though Eldar had awakened his Baishi bloodline, a mere month wasn't enough to fully master wielding such formidable power. Thus, armed with the Dragon Scepter, the mightiest artifact of dragonkind, Eldar fought the Dragon King to a standstill. 3. Sensing danger, the Dragon King activated a hidden mechanism in his scepter. In an instant, the dragon binding chain transformed into a massive enchanted net, seeking to ensnare Eldar completely. Seeing the peril, I swiftly placed the dragon egg behind me and shapeshifted into my nine-tailed true form, intercepting the colossal net with my tails. Forged from the bones of countless ancient divine dragons, the dragon-binding chain can immobilize any being with draconic blood, no matter how formidable their magic might be. The chain had been safeguarded by the goddess Nuwa since antiquity. Who could have imagined it would fall into the hands of this aged Dragon King? The crowd gasped in shock at the sight of my nine-tailed true form. In an instant, that massive net ensnared me, tightening relentlessly as if to crush every celestial bone in my body. Seeing me trapped, Eldar charged recklessly forward, determined to tear the net apart, but I channeled my divine power to push Eldar several paces back. "Eldar, I'm of the nine-tailed fox lineage. Don't worry, these dragon-binding chains can't harm me, but if you get caught in them, our child and I will truly lose all hope of survival." At my words, Eldar suddenly came to his senses and moved to shield the dragon egg within the barrier. Just then, Vera, who had been lying weakly on the ground clutching her chest, somehow mustered the strength to rise and forcibly seize the dragon egg I'd placed in the barrier. Even when divine power shattered the immortal bones in her wrist, Vera still clung desperately to the egg. "Eldar, unless you willingly sever your own dragon tendons now, neither Vixen nor your child will live to see tomorrow." Knight stared greedily at Eldar hovering midair, his eyes brimming with smug satisfaction. "Eldar, hand over your dragon bones and sinews willingly, and I might just beg my royal father to spare your miserable life, if I'm feeling generous. As for Vixen, who'd have thought she's a nine-tailed celestial fox? Pity she's so stubborn, might as well extract her divine marrow and transfer all her cultivation to Vera." Hearing this, Vera shot me an increasingly triumphant look. "My dear sister, what does it matter if you're a nine-tailed fox spirit? The positions of Fox Clan Matriarch and Dragon Mother belong to me alone." Meanwhile, the Dragon King advanced step by step toward Eldar with chilling determination. "Eldar, if you and this fox wench know what's good for you, hand over the divine bones. Your inferior bloodline makes you utterly unworthy of such power." Seeing neither Eldar nor I showed any sign of yielding, Vera's hand clutching the dragon egg instantly transformed into razor-sharp claws. "Since you're so ungrateful, I'll feed this wretched spawn to my offspring." With divine energy coalescing in her grasp, Vera prepared to crush the dragon egg in her hand. Suddenly, the previously dormant egg erupted in scorching flames, its searing heat charring Vera's already wounded wrist black. As the egg slipped from Vera's control, Eldar moved to shield it, only for the Dragon King, wielding his scepter, to snatch it away first. "Eldar, your obstinacy knows no bounds. It seems I can no longer spare you." As the words faded, the dragon scepter unleashed an unprecedented oppressive aura, plunging the world into darkness and silence. A colossal black dragon emerged from the royal scepter, turning the clear sky ink black as countless demonic entities tore through the heavens, unleashing chaos upon the world, gathering the dark entities around it. The black dragon spread its claws and soared toward Eldar. Father, you've betrayed the dragon kin and fallen into demonic ways. The dark aura rising between the dragon king's brows startled both Eldar and me. Instead of showing remorse at Eldar's accusation, the dragon king burst into maniacal laughter. So what? I shall rule this world. I orchestrated the Fox-Dragon alliance to breed the mightiest dragon heir. Consuming his celestial marrow will elevate me to godhood. It was you and this fox spirit who constantly opposed me, nearly ruining my grand scheme. Now I shall personally strip you of your immortal bones, condemning you to eternal damnation. As he spoke, the Dragon King glared at Vera and Knight lying on the ground. A mass of dark energy coalesced into spectral dragon claws that lifted them into midair. You worthless wretches, after all the effort I invested in nurturing you, you produce nothing but a malformed black serpent, a disgrace to dragonkind. Today I shall purge you both from existence. Before Knight and Vera could react, the Dragon King had already torn out their celestial marrow with his bare hands, devouring every last drop. Even the weakly whimpering black dragon hatchling was crushed beneath the Dragon King's palm, reduced to a pool of blood, after dealing with Knight and his companions. The Dragon King's icy, murderous gaze turned toward Eldar and me. With my grand technique complete, none of you shall leave Mount Bujo alive. The overwhelming pressure caused the already shrinking dragon binding chains to constrict further. Clutching the massive net, I severed 3 of my own tails with a roar and tore it apart. Today, Eldar and I shall rid the 3 realms of your scourge. Dragging my remaining 6 tails, I channeled divine energy with Eldar and unleashed it toward the Dragon King, just as the divine blast was about to strike. The black dragon, as if cheating fate, opened its abyssal maw and swallowed the energy whole. To think you've mastered such power in mere months. Pity you encountered me before learning to wield it. Today, I shall drain every drop of your divine essence, and reign supreme over all creation. As the words faded, the Dragon King's face twisted into a vicious grin. With the black dragon's aid, he sent both Eldar and me crashing to the ground. All 6 of my tails were shattered. While Eldar's draconic spine snapped in 2, our divine energy bled away as rivers of crimson soaked the earth before us. The Dragon King's eyes gleamed with triumph as he materialized before us. His claws vice-gripped our skulls, relentlessly draining our waning power. We could feel ourselves withering. Soon we'd be nothing but desiccated husks, our divine essence fully consumed. The dragon egg shrouded in dark energy suddenly exploded, transforming into a colossal serpent coiling midair. The Dragon King sneered in contempt. The spawn of serpent demons will forever bear inferior blood. How laughable that this newborn dares challenge me. But his laughter died abruptly, for what he mistook as a mere white serpent was none other than Baishi's true form. In an instant, the stagnant sky shattered under divine power, and the Dragon King's ultimate weapon, the scepter of draconic authority, crumbled to dust. You insignificant insects dare to bring calamity upon this world. Baishi concentrated divine energy, forming a massive luminous sphere that instantly shattered the Dragon King's body. As the Dragon King fell, countless ancestral dragon spirits burst forth from his remains. Finally liberated, Baishi then channeled divine energy into Eldar and me, pulling us back from death's doorstep. My sweet Astra, come to Mama. The half-grown youth flashed a hint of awkwardness in his eyes, yet obediently approached Eldar and me, with Astra holding the fort. Eldar smoothly ascended the dragon throne, while my manifestation of 9 tails secured my position as the Fox clan's new matriarch. A millennium later, Eldar and I slipped away from the dragon palace. Glancing back at Astra's figure commanding the court officials, this old mother couldn't help but shed tears. Come on, it's just a 2-century getaway for some alone time, not like we're parting forever. No need for tears. Astra's cheek twitched involuntarily as she faced the mountain of petitions from the Fox and Dragon clans. Your Majesties, I may be exceptionally gifted, but I'm still just a 1,000-year-old kid here. Astra let out a frustrated roar, but under the stern supervision of the Turtle Prime Minister, she grudgingly plowed through the paperwork. Eldar and I had long descended to the mortal realm, transforming into an ordinary mountain-dwelling couple living the simple life of farming and weaving. The mortal world is truly better, no more disturbances from that troublesome brat. Seeing Eldar's illusionary face, now aged like a man in his 50s according to mortal years, I reached up to touch my own wrinkled skin and chuckled, though taking on this form is a bit too unsightly. Eldar shot me a haughty glare. If we didn't maintain this disguise, mortals would burn us at the stake for witchcraft after noticing our unchanging faces over decades. Hearing this, I simply shrugged. Seriously. Our son is the purest descendant of the ancient deity Baishi, who in this world could possibly harm us. Though this mortal guise is rather unflattering, it does let Eldar and I grow old together like an ordinary loving couple. I must say, growing old with you feels rather wonderful. Story 2, when I was going home during the winter vacation, my poor roommate didn't manage to get a train ticket. Out of kindness, I offered to let her stay at my home for the spring festival. However, She climbed into my boyfriend's bed. When the extremely cold apocalypse struck, they occupied my house, snatched away my food and supplies, they stripped me naked, threw me into the icy snow, and lip-streamed my death. Behind the glass door, they killed the cat that I had raised for 10 years and eat hot pot with its meat while laughing. As I cried and pleaded, my roommate said, "You were so high and mighty when you sponsored me. This cat probably cost you more than what you spent on me. I'll have a good taste of it today." Just before I died filled with hatred, I heard a voice, "Master, I wish I could protect you." Woo-woo. I still didn't manage to get a ticket. How can I go home for the spring festival? Vera's soft complaint reached my ears. Looking at the desk with the bed above it in front of me, I was holding my beloved Jojo. Tears suddenly welled up in my eyes. I was reborn and returned to the time before everything started. A childish voice suddenly came to my ears. "Master, don't cry." Jojo rubbed his head against my bosom. It was him talking to me. It must be that the cat god heard my wish. "This time, I will protect you." Jojo was a tabby cat that I rescued by the roadside. Although he wasn't precious or beautiful, he was the apple of my eye. He was smart and well-behaved, and he was very human-like. He had accompanied me for a full 10 years. Sometimes I would bring him to the dormitory to play, and my roommates all liked him. Now, he was reborn with me. I looked at my roommates around me. Sure enough, only I could hear Jojo's voice. In my previous life, when I heard that my roommate Vera didn't get a ticket, I immediately invited her warmly to stay at my home during the winter vacation. She happily hugged me and said that I was her best friend in the world. At that time, I was so stupid to believe it. How ridiculous. Now, seeing that I didn't say anything, Vera chatted with my roommates for a while, then bit her lip and took the initiative to ask me, "Sable, I didn't manage to get a train ticket. I can't go home. If I stay at the school, I'll be the only one in the dormitory. I'm a bit scared. Can I stay at your home for a few days?" Before I could answer, Jojo already wrapped his little cat paws around my neck and said anxiously, "Don't agree to her. Don't agree to her." My heart ached, and I hugged Jojo tightly and flatly refused. Jojo is shy around strangers and doesn't like strangers staying at home. 2. Sable, if you don't want to, you should find a better excuse. The roommate who had just chatted with Vera stood up for her. "Everyone knows that Jojo isn't shy at all and even follows you to the dormitory." Vera's eyes suddenly turned red. "Sable, did I do something wrong to make you angry? If it were before, I would definitely apologize and coax her. But now, I don't want to say a word to her. Just staying in the same dormitory with her makes me feel sick." "Sable, I know you're a local and don't have to struggle to get a ticket like us from other places, but I can't get a ticket. I really can't go home and have nowhere to live. Your home is in the city, and the house is so big with so many rooms. Can't you just let me stay for a few days? I promise I won't make you angry and will treat Jojo well." The other 2 roommates also comforted her and criticized me. "Yeah, Sable, your family is so rich, you have extra rooms. Why can't you let Vera stay? You were so generous before. When did you become so stingy? You know what Vera's family situation is. Are you just using the cat as an excuse to bully the poor student?" I was so angry that my whole body was shaking. It's true that my family has the best financial condition among the roommates, usually. I often treat my roommates to meals and give them snacks and gifts, but my kindness didn't get any gratitude or return. Instead, I only got more and more excessive demands and scolding. Why? Just because my family is well off, am I supposed to be their bloodsucker? If I don't give, am I being stingy and putting on airs as a rich girl, looking down on ordinary people? Why? Moreover, Vera is indeed a poor student, but I'm her sponsor. She's a student from the mountain area. When my parents and I passed by there, I felt sorry for this girl of my age who didn't have money to buy exercise books. After discussing with my parents, I sponsored her. I regarded her as my close friend and selflessly gave her all kinds of help. She almost enjoyed the same material conditions as me. She wore trendy brand clothes that she asked from me, used my famous brand skincare products, and had the latest iPhone. Where is the look of a poor student? At this moment, I regretted it so much. I actually raised this ungrateful wretch for so long and even got Jojo involved and lost our lives. Amid the blame from several roommates, Jojo in my arms suddenly jumped onto the table, fluffed up his fur in the direction of Vera, showed his fangs, and hissed loudly. Meow, hiss. They were immediately stunned. Vera awkwardly reached out to touch Jojo. "Ah, what's wrong with Jojo?" Jojo swiped at her with his paw. "The bad woman who bullied Mom and killed me. Go away." 3. Vera let out a scream. Several scratches appeared on her hand, and it was bleeding. The 2 roommates also exclaimed and showed their concern for her. They treated her wound and comforted her. They couldn't see that Vera stared at Jojo with hatred in her eyes. I remembered that in my previous life, at first, she pretended to be friendly and tried to please Jojo, but Jojo never liked her. Later, when the extremely cold apocalypse came and she occupied my home, She completely tore off her disguise and took out all her emotions on Jojo. She would beat and scold Jojo whenever she had the chance. In the end, she even killed Jojo, skinned him, and used his meat to eat hot pot. I hugged Jojo tightly. It's not an excuse, Jojo just doesn't like her. The two roommates were about to say something, but Vera said pitifully, "It's okay if Sable doesn't want to. Don't affect the harmony of the dormitory because of me." Vera took out her phone and said coquettishly with a round look, "Then I'll have to stay at my boyfriend's place. I didn't want to do this so soon. It's so annoying." As she spoke, she sent a voice message to her boyfriend. "Brother, I didn't manage to get a ticket to go home. Can I stay at your place during the winter vacation? I'm telling you in advance, you can't do anything bad." The two roommates made a commotion, and they looked envious. You guys are so annoying." Everyone in the dormitory knew that Vera had a mysterious rich and handsome boyfriend, although no one had seen him. The latest iPhone and many brand-name clothes and bags in her hands were all given by this boyfriend. In my previous life, I also envied the deep relationship between Vera and her boyfriend. My childhood sweetheart boyfriend Kai would exchange gifts with me, but he rarely cared about me. It wasn't until they lived in my home and got together that I found out about their relationship. It turned out that the mysterious rich and handsome boyfriend that Vera mentioned was actually my childhood sweetheart boyfriend. When I saw that unbearable scene, I questioned them with sadness and anger, but Vera snuggled in Kai's arms and laughed triumphantly. "Sable, a few days ago, I made a bet with Kai. I wondered when you, the fool, would find out. We flirted in front of you for so long, and you didn't even know. You're so stupid. It's so laughable. It's not exciting at all. Now." Vera's voice was coquettish. While crying and talking on the phone with Kai, she looked at me with provocation and mockery. "I was ignorant before. No, I completely understand what it means. I didn't want to listen anymore and packed my things. I left the dormitory while holding Jojo. In the corridor, I vaguely heard the sneers of my roommates. It's just an ugly local cat. Does she really think it's precious and treat it like a treasure? What's there to show off?" "What do you mean Jojo doesn't like her? She's just heartless. She has such a big house but refuses to help her roommate. She pretended to have a good relationship with you before. How hypocritical," Vera pitifully explained. "Don't say that about Sable. Maybe I did something to make her unhappy. You did nothing wrong. She's just delicate. She looks down on us just because she has some money. She's so arrogant." As soon as I went out, they deliberately said those words for me to hear. I was so wronged and angry that my whole body was shaking. Jojo in my arms put his soft little cat paws on my chest and rubbed his head against my neck. "They're all bad people. They only say bad things. Mom, don't listen to them." My heart warmed, and I hugged Jojo tightly. "Okay, Mom won't listen. Mom will only listen to Jojo from now on." I knew that I had more important things to do now, soon. This winter vacation will turn into an extremely cold apocalypse. I have to prepare as soon as possible. This time, I will definitely survive with Jojo, for, before I got home, my phone rang. As soon as I answered it, Kai's unhappy voice came. "I heard that you're acting like a spoiled young lady again. Sable, not everyone has a wealthy family like yours. You should also be considerate of others' lives. Kai's family and my family live in the same community. He's my childhood sweetheart brother. He's a few years older than me and already working, since we were young. He took care of me and watched over me like a real brother. During the growth process, I always looked at him, followed him, and chased after him. I don't know when. He was the only one in my eyes. After the college entrance examination, he finally agreed to my confession. I was overjoyed and even introduced him to my roommates, but I didn't know that he had already hooked up with Vera behind my back. They even flirted on the phone in front of me countless times. It's so disgusting. I clenched the phone tightly and gritted my teeth. "Did Vera complain to you again?" Kai was silent for a moment and said in a stern tone with an air of teaching, "What does it have to do with her? You made a mistake and you're blaming others. Sable, you're an adult now. Can't you be more sensible?" He spoke righteously, but he, without asking right from wrong, was trying to put the unwarranted blame on me. In my previous life, after I caught them in the act, Kai slowly pulled up the quilt and held Vera in his arms. He was as calm as ever and said, "Don't blame Vera. If you want to blame someone, blame yourself. You're always so high and mighty and have no femininity at all. I have no male urge for you at all." In the end, when he and Vera killed my Jojo and locked me outside in the icy snow, he showed a trace of reluctance. But after hesitating, he said firmly, "Sable, don't blame me. Without food, we can't survive. I know you love Jojo very much, but he's just a cat. His life is not as important as ours. Since you can't understand such a simple truth, you can calm down outside." He helped Vera strip me naked and threw me out. They caught Jojo, killed him, they skinned Jojo, cut his bones, and ate his meat. I hated them so much that I cried and cursed. Despite the severe cold, I desperately scratched the doors and windows. My nails were lifted, and the glass door was stained with blood. While Vera laughed triumphantly, she held her phone and live-streamed my death. I could even watch them use my JoJo to eat hot pot and have a feast. Finally, I was so cold and hungry that I fell to the ground with no more strength. My tears froze on my face, and I fell into the darkness of death. Mio, JoJo's shout brought me back to my senses. Mom, ignore this bad guy. We must eat him in the future. Kai also heard JoJo's voice and scolded. Is that JoJo? You've spoiled him? His temper is as delicate as yours. I was so angry that I said coldly, JoJo is my baby. What right do you have to talk about him? I hung up the phone directly. Kai's WeChat messages soon came. Kai, Sable, when did you become so rude? Kai, you must apologize to Vera. Apologize. In your dreams, I blocked and deleted him directly. 5. In my previous life, after the winter vacation started, the extremely cold apocalypse began. By the end of January, the temperature was getting lower and lower. In February, it started snowing continuously. This southern city, which was always warm, directly dropped to more than 30 degrees below zero, then 50, 70 degrees below zero, and finally, it even reached 100 degrees below zero. It lasted for more than 2 months. It still hadn't ended when I died. No one expected such a disaster. Countless people froze to death in various places. Even if they were in a warm room, the lack of food became a big problem. The transportation and logistics had long been paralyzed, and it was impossible to buy anything. After the food was consumed, many people even started killing their pets, and some even killed their relatives and ate them to survive. I definitely don't want to live like that, so I have to prepare in advance. I started buying a large number of daily necessities: firewood, rice, oil, salt, warm clothes, and a large amount of coal, as well as a generator, etc. When I was buying various pet supplies for JoJo, I found that JoJo seemed to have grown a bit. He used to fit perfectly in my arms, but now he was much bigger and heavier. The short fur of the tabby cat had turned into long fur for keeping warm. I stroked him and asked, JoJo, why have you grown up and your fur has become longer? JoJo purred comfortably. It must be that the cat god heard my wish. When I grow into a handsome and tall big tiger, I can protect Mom. My heart warmed. And I smiled knowingly. JoJo, my baby, this time, Mom will definitely protect you. As I was shopping, messages on WeChat kept popping up nonstop. In the dormitory group, Vera had mentioned me and started a conversation. Vera, Sable, don't quarrel with Brother Kai because of me. It's all my fault. Vera, I don't know what exactly I did wrong for you to treat me like this. If you have any dissatisfaction, can you tell me? The other 2 roommates also frantically had mentioned me, all pleading for Vera. Between the lines, they were all blaming me. Did they really think I didn't know? I only had the 4-person dormitory group, but the 3 of them had a separate small group. In the past, even if I felt a bit uncomfortable, I endured it. But now, I couldn't stand it anymore and directly quit the group. Vera's private WeChat messages followed immediately. Vera, Sable, what exactly did I do wrong for you to treat me like this? Woo-woo, Vera, tell me, and I'll change. I'll also try my best to make JoJo like me. Vera, don't ignore me. Okay, I didn't reply to any of them. I could imagine that she would definitely send this humble private conversation to their 3-person small group, making the other 2 roommates accuse me. But after the initial sadness, I didn't care anymore, not wanting to be pestered by her. I clicked into her moments and started taking screenshots of the designer bags, perfumes, and new electronic products she posted. Then I sent all the screenshots in a bundle to the counselor and several teaching affairs teachers. Sable, teacher, I want to report something. Vera from class 2, grade 3 is not actually a poor student, but she occupied the quota for poor students and fraudulently claimed the subsidies intended for them. Sable, files, Sable, these are her personal items posted on Moments. Besides, she uses all luxury goods and famous brands. I hope the teachers and leaders can verify this and correct the unhealthy atmosphere in the school. 7. I not only sent private messages to the counselor and teaching affairs teachers but also posted the information on the campus network. The luxury goods and famous brands that Vera showed off in her moments were far beyond what an ordinary college student could afford, yet she was indeed a poor student receiving subsidies. The students were immediately filled with indignation. This La Mer. This Chanel, this Burberry, I must be in the wrong place. Turns out I'm the real poor student. Is the threshold for being a poor student this high now? I wonder whose child of a leader was parachuted in. Isn't this the girl from our class? She always shows off her rich and handsome boyfriend, but in 2 years, no one has even seen him. She's so fake. Yuck, what are you talking nonsense about? Her quota as a poor student is real. These things were all given by her boyfriend. Don't talk nonsense if you don't know the truth. Oh, her mysterious boyfriend gave her so many things. Who knows if they're gifts or hush money for being his mistress? Don't you think it's too much to talk about a girl like this? Then show us the evidence. If she's really a poor student, where did these things come from, since her boyfriend gave them to her? Let her boyfriend come forward and show himself. Despite the protection of the two roommates, Vera deleted all the posts on her moments. She also changed her profile picture to pure white and her signature to "The innocent will be proven innocent." I muted all social media apps and focused on stockpiling supplies. With this kind of incident happening, the counselor and teaching affairs teachers would definitely check Vera's situation carefully. She would have to get all kinds of certificates and plead everywhere. Surely she wouldn't have time to bother me. Jojo didn't understand what was going on and pawed at my phone. "Mom, I'm hungry. I want those dried fish snacks from last time, and catnip too." Jojo had grown as big as a medium-sized dog. He slept a lot every day and ate even more. I hugged him and rubbed him hard. "What else do you want? Mom will buy everything for Jojo." I bought a longevity lock for Jojo and put it around his neck. I hope he can always be with me in this life, safe and sound, with a long and healthy life. 8. To withstand the extreme cold, stockpiling supplies alone was far from enough. In less than half a month, the temperature would start to drop rapidly. I began to draw up a renovation plan for the house. I would add heat insulation materials indoors and outdoors, replace the doors and windows with more airtight and warm ones, reinstall thicker curtains, and get various blankets. I would install solar power generation on the roof and place multiple generators indoors. At the same time, considering safety issues, I also needed to strengthen the security of the entire house. I finalized the plan with the renovation team, and the work would start tomorrow. When I got home, I shouted happily, "Jojo, Mom just finished a really important thing. This time, I definitely won't let you." But there came Jojo's hissing sound of confrontation from inside the house. Without even changing my shoes, I rushed in anxiously. "Jojo, what's wrong?" In the living room, Jojo was standing on the sofa, all fluffed up and facing off against two other people. Hearing me come back, Kai turned around and frowned. "Sable, what's going on here? You've piled up so many useless things. Are you planning to open a grocery store at home?" My house was now filled with all kinds of supplies and was in a complete mess. Vera tugged at his sleeve and said timidly, "Brother Kai, Sable isn't acting normal. She might be sick. Don't scold her. How dare they break into my house like this? Who gave them permission?" I felt cold all over and couldn't stop shaking. The scene of them occupying my house in my previous life seemed to overlap again. With red eyes, I asked angrily, "This is my house. Who allowed you to come in?" 9. As soon as he saw me, Jojo jumped off the sofa, stood in front of me, and growled at them. Baring his teeth, he wanted to protect me. My nose twitched with emotion, and I quickly protected him too, but Kai criticized me unhappily. "The cat you raised has no manners at all." As soon as we came in, it started growling and wouldn't let us sit on the sofa. Vera added fuel to the fire beside him. "Brother Kai, don't you think this cat has grown a lot?" Kai didn't see Jojo often, only then did he notice. "Why has it grown so big?" Vera covered her mouth and pretended to be frightened. "Sable has raised this cat for 10 years. It's impossible for it to grow bigger. Could it have become some kind of monster? In my hometown, they say that if an animal raised for a long time gains spirituality and becomes a monster, it will harm and eat people. It has to be dealt with as soon as possible. Could Sable's cat also? They actually wanted to hurt Jojo." My eyes turned red with anger, and I picked up the vase on the table and threw it at Vera. Vera let out a scream and was pulled into Kai's arms. "Sable, are you really crazy?" Kai shouted angrily. "You've made a mess of the house, bought so many useless things, and you still treat this abnormal cat like a treasure. What on earth are you doing?" My chest heaved violently. "What am I doing? What I do in my own house is my own business. What right do you have to break into my house without permission?" Choked by my words, Kai awkwardly tried to justify himself. "Our parents exchanged spare keys before and asked me to take care of you. You haven't contacted anyone recently and even blocked me, your boyfriend. Can you stop being so willful? That's why Kai and I lived in the same neighborhood. We had been childhood sweethearts, and our families had business dealings. Our parents often went on business trips. When the adults were away, we would take care of each other's children. But now, we were all adults and no longer needed such care. It's true that I ignored things at school and Kai, but I had always kept in touch with my parents. They clearly broke into a private house but still talked so righteously about doing it for my own good. They were simply shameless. Did my parents ask you to come see me? You still remember you're my boyfriend, but who are you hugging now?" 10. Kai was stunned by these words and reluctantly let go of Vera, but Vera started crying, looking pitiful. "Don't quarrel. It's all my fault. I asked Brother Kai to bring me here to apologize to Sable. But I didn't expect Sable to be so unwelcoming. I really don't know what I did wrong. Woo-woo." Kai immediately felt extremely. "Vera, you did nothing wrong. Sable's temper as a spoiled young lady is hard for anyone to bear. Sable, apologize to Vera right now, or I'll tell your parents what you've done. This was ridiculous." I sneered and asked, "What do I need to apologize for? You broke into my house without permission. Do you think I won't call the police?" Kai scolded with a dark face. How dare you ask? You reported Vera for occupying the poor student quota at school and spread rumors about her having an improper relationship with others. Do you know how much harm this does to a girl? You're a girl yourself. How could you do such a vicious thing? Vera grabbed Kai's arm, forced a pitiful smile through her tears, and said softly with a sob, Brother Kai, stop talking. Sable is your girlfriend. Don't ruin your relationship because of me. Sable must have some misunderstanding. Even if I lose the poor student subsidy, I'll find a way on my own. What they said, it doesn't matter. She was like a stubborn little white flower that had been battered by wind and rain but still remained pure. Kai was indeed extremely heartache. He immediately wanted to scold me again. I spoke first. I reported the matter about the poor student quota because I think Vera's quality of life far exceeds the assistance standard for poor students. Now this quota should be given to those who need it more. Besides, I never spread rumors. As for whether she has an improper relationship, since everyone is so curious about the boyfriend who keeps giving her gifts, let him show himself. Kai's face turned pale and then red. He stammered but couldn't say anything. A flash of hatred crossed Vera's eyes. Even though the two of them had been involved with each other for a long time, they didn't dare to make it clear to me easily. Vera's tuition fees were all sponsored by me, and Kai's family's business relied on my family. If their betrayal and infidelity were exposed, they would not only be despised but also lose a lot of benefits. Kai had always acted like an older brother since childhood and wanted to lecture me again. Jojo couldn't bear it anymore and let out a loud roar. Although he only looked as big as a medium-sized dog, the sound he made was no longer like that of an ordinary cat. His voice had become deeper and louder. It was like the roar of a tiger. Vera was startled and exclaimed in disgust, "Ah, monster." Kai's face also changed. "Sable, what on earth have you raised?" Scared by Jojo, I immediately took the opportunity to order them to leave. "Kai, leave the key and get out of my house." Looking at Jojo, they could only leave reluctantly. Before leaving, Vera pretended to be concerned. "Brother Kai, do you think this monster will hurt Sable? Should we call the police?" She clearly knew how important Jojo was to me. She did it on purpose. I slammed the door shut. Kai didn't return the key to my house. He claimed he was taking care of me on behalf of my parents. Kai was a man, and I didn't have any suitable weapons at hand. I was also worried that they would hurt Jojo. So I had to let it go. I slumped to the ground, hugging Jojo tightly. A sense of despair filled my heart. What should I do? Kai almost never used the spare key to my house, and I actually forgot about it. Was I doomed to be exploited by them again this time? 11. Jojo comforted me. "Mom, don't cry. They're bad." I hugged him tightly. "Yeah, Mom is just worried about Jojo. I'm afraid they'll hurt you." Jojo stood up on his hind legs, hugging my neck like a child. "Don't be afraid. The cat god will help me. I've grown up and will be able to protect Mom soon." Hugging the warm Jojo, I buried my face in his soft long fur, listening to his happy and relaxed purring. I gradually calmed down. "Jojo, this time, Mom will definitely protect you well too." 12. Time was running out. After talking to my parents on the phone, I started checking our other properties. Finally, I found a small villa on the outskirts of the city. Because of its remote location, this small villa had more independent and complete living facilities. It had an independent power generation and water supply system, and it was equipped with underfloor heating and a fireplace. The roof was more suitable for installing solar panels, and there were 2 full floors of basements. Obviously, it was more convenient to renovate. I contacted the construction team overnight and asked them to go there for renovation. The next day, I left home with Jojo and went to the villa. I also hired a cargo delivery service to transport all the supplies there. The following days were very hard for me. I hired 2 groups of workers to work day and night, and I kept following up on the decoration and renovation progress. I added even more heat insulation materials to the entire villa, several times more than normal. I bought blankets, charcoal, and all kinds of warm items without hesitation. Besides being warm, the doors and windows also had various reinforcement and safety measures. After the experience of Kai breaking into my house last time, I also bought a lot of suitable weapons. The renovation team and workers all found it strange, but no one would believe that an extremely cold apocalypse was coming. I could only tell them that there would be a snow disaster this winter, and it would be extremely harsh. They must stock up on enough food and pay attention to keeping warm. Some of them listened, but most of them just laughed at and looked down on me. I couldn't do much. I could only anonymously post some reminders online, but almost all the comments below mocked me for having apocalyptic delusions. I could only put down my phone in frustration. After all, even my parents didn't believe what I said. How could strangers easily trust me? Fortunately, they had promised to come back a few days before and spend the spring festival with me. In my previous life, I was too busy struggling to survive to contact my parents. This time, our whole family would definitely survive. More than 10 days later, the renovation of the villa was finally completed. My parents also flew back. As soon as they entered the villa, they were shocked. Fortunately, although they didn't believe in the extremely cold apocalypse I described, they were willing to accompany their daughter in this crazy endeavor. 3 days after the villa's renovation was finished, the temperature began to drop. At first, it only dropped to 10 degrees below zero. Although this was very unusual for this southern city, it wasn't overly strange. After that, the temperature started to plummet rapidly. All the media, platforms, and the internet were discussing the abnormal weather this year. Only then did my parents completely believe what I had said. When the temperature dropped to 30 degrees below zero, in the city without collective heating installations, there were already cases of illness, injuries, and deaths. The government issued warnings, dispatched rescue teams, distributed survival supplies, and urgently built bases to shelter affected citizens. However, human strength is vary in the face of extreme natural environments. The continuous heavy snowfall lasted for several days, and everything in the city was frozen. Even though the water and electricity supply remained normal, many people still froze or starved to death. I had stockpiled a large amount of food and warm clothing, which was enough for our whole family, including Jojo, to live comfortably. My parents had also suggested donating some supplies, but having experienced the extremely cold apocalypse once before, I knew how terrifying human nature could be and quickly stopped them. In my previous life, my kind act of sharing not only brought no rewards but instead led to my death at the hands of Vera and Kai. They didn't even spare my Jojo. Fortunately, everything was different now. Jojo had grown very large. He looked even bigger than a tiger, and his fur was extremely thick. He wasn't afraid of the cold at all. He often rolled around in the snow and even complained that the indoor temperature with the heater on was too hot. Thankfully, I had stocked up enough cat food to feed him with no problem. Outside, it was a world of ice and snow, and death and hunger swept through everyone, but our family huddled in this warm villa, enjoying steaming hot delicacies. Just when I thought everything was going smoothly, the surveillance video on my phone issued an alarm. My heart tightened. When I opened it, I saw that someone had entered the house where I used to live. Before I left, I had installed surveillance cameras there. Now, the people captured in the surveillance footage were Kai and Vera, whom I hadn't seen for a long time. 14. They were all wrapped up warmly. As soon as they entered the house, they turned on the heater and started searching for supplies everywhere, but all the supplies in that house had already been moved away by me. When they couldn't find anything, they started blaming each other. Once they felt warmer, they began to fiddle with their phones anxiously. I watched them coldly and took them out of my blacklist. Sure enough, my phone rang immediately, and I answered the call. Kai was surprised for a moment. Sable, you answered the phone. Where are you? Seeing that I didn't answer, Vera beside him said anxiously, Sable, I wrongly blamed you before. It was all my fault. Where are you? Do you have any food? I'm really worried something happened to you. Kai also said patiently, Sable, how are you now? Do you want to join us? We have a lot of food here. Their voices sounded sincere. If I hadn't seen their difficult position and emaciated appearance in the surveillance footage, I might have thought they really wanted to help an old friend. I flatly refused. No need. I'm not short of anything. But do you really have a lot of food? The two people in the surveillance footage froze immediately. Kai completely dropped his pretense and asked angrily in an impatient tone, Sable, did you know this was going to happen? Where are all the supplies you bought before? Where did you hide them? I sneered. What does that have to do with you? Kai was enraged and was about to scold me, but I hung up the phone. He could only rage helplessly in the surveillance footage. Vera said beside him, it would be great if her cat was here. That cat had been growing bigger and bigger before. If we slaughtered it for meat, it would at least last us 10 days or half a month. I was furious. I couldn't let them get away with it. So I found a video of our family watching the snowscape and eating hot pot by the fireplace and sent it to them. As expected, Kai and Vera flew into a rage. WeChat messages poured in quickly the screen. At first, they bombarded me with crazy questions, then they begged and pleaded, constantly reminiscing about our past friendship, but in the surveillance footage, they had already started cursing at me. This bitch. She knew about this long ago but didn't say anything. She wanted to kill us. Exactly, that bitch. She dared to do that before. Was she trying to distract us? Brother Kai, do you think she really knows about us? Kai frowned and didn't say anything. I turned on the voice function of the surveillance camera. You sound so nice in your WeChat messages. Did you ever think that I could also hear what you said in my house? The two of them were embarrassed and flustered. Then, they became even angrier and simply completely broke off all pretense. Sable, don't be too happy. Why should you be able to live comfortably while we're freezing and starving? Do you think you can hide forever? Others may not know which houses your family owns, but I'll figure it out sooner or later. I'm going to post this video online right now. What do you think those people who are almost freezing and starving to death will do when they see you showing off and feasting? I didn't expect them to do this and was immediately worried. Kai, how dare you? Kai said viciously. I'll also tell them that you knew everything but secretly hoarded supplies for yourself, didn't tell anyone, and caused everyone's death. 15. At this moment, I deeply regretted sending that video. Although the current outdoor temperature had dropped to 50 or 60 degrees below zero, people who could withstand the cold could still move around outside fully equipped. Kai indeed immediately posted the video online. In his caption, he portrayed me as a wealthy girl who had known about the apocalypse in advance but was selfish, only hoarded supplies for herself to survive, and was now happily eating hot pot and showing off, mocking everyone else. This instantly ignited public anger. The comments were full of people cursing me, threatening to dox me, and some even directly said they would form groups to rob me of my supplies. They guessed my location based on the outdoor environment in the video. The most terrifying thing was that some comments actually guessed it right. Fortunately, all snowscapes looked similar, so no one could be sure exactly where I was. I was terrified. After witnessing human nature during the apocalypse, I had no doubt that they would loot all my supplies, then kill our whole family, and maybe even eat us, and it was only a matter of time before they found this place. I had to find a way to survive with my family. 16. Kai knew roughly where my family's houses were located. He was the first to arrive. He came with Vera in a pickup truck, accompanied by several tough-looking men. They came prepared. When they reached my villa, they took out crowbars, pickaxes, and other tools and started destroying the fortified courtyard and gate. With just over 10 days of rushed construction, it was hard to make everything as strong as a fortress in the low temperature. My electric fence had already stopped working. I could only watch helplessly as they breached the outer courtyard and started smashing the door. I huddled tightly with my parents, too scared to make a sound. The moment the door was smashed open, a huge creature roared and pounced out. Roar, Jojo, now bigger than a tiger, easily knocked down the people in the front. They were terrified. Monster, Jojo wasn't afraid of the cold, and he was big, strong, and agile. Humans were no match for him at all. Seeing him effortlessly take down several people and scare the rest into retreat, I finally let out a sigh of relief. They even started blaming Kai and Vera for leading them here. The scar-faced leader roared angrily. You didn't say there was such a monster. Damn it. There's no heat in this house at all. There's no one here. Just this monster. Did you do this on purpose to screw me over? Kai didn't dare to say a word. Vera explained anxiously. Jace, this is her cat. I don't know why it's like this. Jay sized them up for a moment and barely believed them. He cursed, damn it, with this monster here, how are we supposed to get in? Then he signaled to his subordinates behind him, bring the weapons. The subordinate went back to the truck and came out holding a long, black object. It was a gun. My heart seemed to stop beating. 17, I shouted desperately, Jojo, come back. After learning that our location might have been exposed yesterday, I turned off the heating on the ground floor of the villa. I moved all the supplies to the basement. The basement was an area I had designed to be used when the temperature dropped to 70 to 100 degrees below zero. In such extreme temperatures, with the fierce wind raging on the ground, only the basement could provide some warmth. Due to this incident, the basement had to be used ahead of schedule. My parents and I hid in the basement and watched the outside through the surveillance camera at the door. When I saw the dark muzzle of the gun pointed at Jojo, I couldn't hold back anymore. Despite my parents' intercept, I ran from the basement to the ground floor. In the biting cold wind, I shouted in horror, Jojo. The cold trigger was pulled, tears streamed down my face uncontrollably, but I didn't hear the expected gunshot. Jojo slapped those people to the ground with one paw and turned to ask me, Mom, why are you here? I told you, the cat god heard my wish. I can protect you all by myself. My tears froze on my face, stinging painfully. Thankfully, it seemed that the terrifying gun had also frozen up. My legs went weak, and I slumped to the ground. Kai and Vera heard my voice and shouted, trying to say something to me, but Jojo attacked them even more fiercely. Screams rang out one after another. Although I had told Jojo not to kill anyone, I couldn't be sure about other injuries. In the end, Jojo chased all of them away. 18, Mom, I chased those bad guys away. Jojo can finally protect you. Jojo turned around and pounced on me excitedly. I was pressed under his thick fur and reached out to hug him back. After repelling Kai and Vera, the shadow of death hanging over us finally seemed to dissipate. Holding Jojo, I cried my heart out. 19. Later, the temperature kept dropping until it reached 100 degrees below zero. Not only were all means of transportation completely frozen, but the signals also cut off. No one could reach this place in such weather anymore. Our family lived in the warm basement. Jojo was the tabby cat I rescued by the roadside. Kai and Vera went to my house again later. They were probably punished by Jace. They walked limpingly, were covered in dirt, and had injuries on their faces. They kept pleading with me through the surveillance camera, asking me to take them in for the sake of our past relationship. I ignored them. I watched as they went from begging to blaming and scolding each other in an attempt to curry favor with me. Finally, due to the lack of food, they started killing each other. In the end, they didn't have the strength left and froze to death together. Looking at their stiff and ugly corpses, I turned off the surveillance camera. Half a year later, the temperature began to rise. It finally returned above zero. The ice and snow melted. The extremely cold apocalypse finally ended. This time, I survived, together with everything in this world. I welcomed a new beginning.